because that is the job, isn't it? Ladies and gentlemen, Ammar Campa Najjar.
Give it up to Ann Craig, first of all, for hosting us, having us, making this happen. Thank you all for being here. I don't know if you owe her a debt, but consider it settled. I hope some of you came here out of your own volition. Before we get started, I want to just stand up and do the Pledge of Allegiance, if that's okay. All right, ready? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, guys. Anybody here who is in the military or served our country, please stand up. Thank you guys for your service. Thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. The people who just, they fought the wars that we wage abroad, so people like me could even have the luxury to fight the ones that we have here at home. And we are one nation, under God, indivisible, but right now I think that notion is being tested at its deepest core. And I think it's time for us to lead with our values again as a nation and understand that there's no Democratic America or Republican America, there is the United States of America. And through every single trial and triumph, we've overcome great adversities and we've come out strong on the other side because we are America. And we have to remember who we are as Americans. So over the course of the next couple hours, we're going to take some questions, we're going to talk. I'm going to share with you about who I am, where I was born, where I came from, and if I do my job right today, all of you will be equally pissed and impressed with what I have to say. Because if you're a Democrat or Republican, you're probably going to like some of what I have to say and not like some of what I have to say. I'm not pandering to either party. I want to put country over party. That's my focus. I've been running for 3 years for a 2-year term. And I've been working my tail off because I believe that this district deserves better representation. But I'm not just running against our incumbent. That's not enough. That's the floor. That's the price of admission for any of us who are running. That is the floor. The ceiling is that we could present a better future for all of us to make sure that every person in this district could live, work, serve, and retire with dignity. That's what this is about. And for those of you who don't know me, my name is Ammar Campa Najjar. It's a long name. Thank my parents for that long name. Can you give me like a name like Adam or something, right? It had to be Ammar Campa Najjar. But imagine you're camping in a jar and you'll get that Campa Najjar. My mom is Mexican American. She was born here. My father's Arab American. And he's a naturalized citizen. My mom's maiden name is Campa. My father's name is Najjar. That's where you get Campa Najjar. And I've gone as Ammar Campa Najjar for most of my working life. I did it because I wanted to make sure that people knew who exactly I was, right? I felt like Campa Najjar encapsulates who I am, a Latino Arab American, but an American first and foremost, and damn proud of it. I was born at Grossmont Hospital at night, not last night, and not Mercy. People think that they named it after me. I was not born at Mercy. The son of a single working class mom. My dad took off when I was about 8 or 9 years old. My mom raised me on her own through being broken-hearted. She worked 2 to 3 jobs. Nothing special about my family. You probably could identify with that story. And I can probably count on one hand how many times she's actually spent money on herself and bought herself something. I'm sure it's more than 5 times, but I've only seen it 5 times in my life. She gave everything up for me and my brother. And she worked 2 to 3 jobs. She was a receptionist. She worked as a receptionist at a doctor's office and at a realtor's office. She's a UDW member, so if any of you are union members, my mom's a union member. She knows how to work hard. And, she sacrificed a lot for me. She showed me the combination of love and hard work. And what happens when you channel those 2 things towards what you believe in. And I love this country, and I've worked hard for this country ever since I was young. I started off working as a janitor at the age of 15 and a half. While my friends were playing soccer, I had to help make ends meet with my mom and help my brother. And I worked at the church. I was a janitor. I was a groundskeeper. I was a handyman. And eventually I started becoming a pastor's assistant. I was going to be a pastor, and then I actually went off to college and started, exactly what happens to every college student. You just start rebelling against everything. And I made my way back to the church and have been a devout Catholic ever since. It's interesting the kind of race we have now. You have Sam Abed, who's running for Congress, who's an Arab immigrant Republican. Then you have Carl DeMaio, who's nothing wrong with it, an openly gay, pro-choice Republican. Then you have me, like a gun shooting, cigar smoking, sorry if I smell, I just came back from a cigar shop, devoutly Christian Democrat, right? America's diverse. It doesn't make sense. We're a nation that's built from every other nation. Unless you're a slave, a relative of a slave or a Native American, we all came from somewhere, right? And that's the beauty of America. And the problem is that every single generation of immigrants is hated on by the previous generation. That's just what happens, right? So we gotta just remember who we are as a country, right? We're a nation of laws, we are. We're a nation of borders, we're a nation of immigrants. We're a nation under God. And we should look at each other through heaven's eyes. That's what my Christian upbringing taught me. After that, I went to a great school. I went to Southwestern College, Grossmont College. I went to San Diego State University, got 2 degrees. Yeah, Aztecs. The only football team we have left. I went there. I was not a good kid in high school, I'll be honest. I was a rebel. And I remember my parents were like, God, you graduated high school, thank God. He's done with community college. He's going to San Diego State. He's going to graduate. I took a year off to go work on a campaign. And my mom was like, oh my God, what the heck did you just do? You threw it all away. You're never going to go back. And I did it to volunteer on a campaign. I became a staff member, field director for Southern California. And I had applied to go work at the White House 2 times before that. And I got dismissed. I got the quickest response ever, just no, constantly. Like someone like me could not work at the White House. Someone like me who had got poor grades, from East County, live in Humboldt now. It just wasn't in the cards for me, is what most people said. And my mom's like, stop hurting yourself. You're hurting your confidence as a young man. You keep doing this, you're gonna just have no confidence left. The 3rd time I got the job. And the reason was because I had a lot of people who volunteered their labor and love and made me look awesome. And got me to go to Washington. I remember I got the phone call, I hung up. I was like, bullshit. There's no way the White House was calling me. It was a prank from a friend. No, I got the job. And I got to do communications, and in 2013, rolling out the healthcare plan. Don't blame me, I didn't make the website when the exchanges went south. And then I did another job that was not as glamorous, which was reading the 10 letters a day that the president would read back when we had a president who acknowledged that he read. This one does not. For better or worse, I'm not making fun, that's just the difference. And I would put in front of him letters that I knew would push him to be like, this is pushing me to do beyond what is morally possible. I would read stories about women, moms who were an illness away from losing their home. Or stories about, someone who had to ration their insulin and they didn't get the paycheck in time and they died. Or a Vietnam veteran who had to sell his medals to get his medicine that month. Or someone who knows no other language than this country's language of English, or doesn't know any other country than this one. They were born in another country, came here at 3 years old, only speak English, served this country honorably, got in trouble with the law, and because they had PTSD and they had a bar fight and they got deported to a country they never knew. Heartbreaking stories that I thought would push this president to do, or the past president to do more. I love that job. And then I went to go work at the U.S. Hispanic Chamber of Commerce to pay homage to my mom's side of the family. I didn't know too much about Hispanic or commerce. I came from a union background, working class background. I didn't know anything about business. I wanted to learn about the other side of the economy, the business aspect. And I was the executive director of communications there for 3 years. I worked across the aisle. I worked with Paul Ryan. I worked with Trump. I met him. We worked together on certain things. Most of it didn't come to fruition. I sat down with him knee to knee, and we talked about immigration reform. And he seemed different than when I met him. And it was just unpredictable to know what he was going to do from day to day. And I think, now we live in a country where, remember when we used to hear about the president, like maybe 3 times a year? If there was an incident, or if he met the Pope, or like was throwing the first pitch, every day we hear from this president. And I think people are getting tired of it. Like, whether you like him or not, I talk to Republicans who say, I just don't want to hear from him every single day. I want to just go about my life and just have him be a businessman, not a showman, and just take care of work. That's all we want. And everyone, even the people who love Trump, like my stepdad, they're like, I just wish he would tweet less. I'm like, I agree. Because that power of the tweet could change markets up and down, right? So I agree with that. I believe in being a politician is a vehicle for becoming a public servant, right? It's not a place to get famous. I'm not running to be part of the squad. I'm not running to open borders and take everyone's guns away and not pledge allegiance to the flag. I'm not doing that. I'm not running to be the next sexy guy in Washington or whatever the hell. I'm running to represent this district. That's what I care about. The 750,000 of us who call this district home, and that's it. That's what I'm doing. And so we came really close last year. We got within 1.7% or 3% total of taking out a 40-year dynasty in just 2 years. And I'm confident in 4 years total, 4 years to serve a 2-year term, we'll win. We'll win together, not just as Democrats, but as Republicans, as independents, as Americans who love this country and want to see its best days ahead, who want to put the 50th first, and country over party. That's what I'm about. And just to finish my bio, I work with the U.S. Department of Labor. I know how to create jobs. I worked on apprenticeship programs. My last memo to the President Trump when I left was a memo saying, here's a program that sounds like your TV show, President Trump. It's called apprenticeship. Why don't you do what you always do? Take it over, invest in it, and make it great again. Please, make it morning in America again. And he invested $5 million more, and he wants to put 5 million people back to work. I don't know how you do that. Like $1 each. I don't know how that works. So I really want sensible solutions. There are things I agree with the president on. There are things I disagree on. I can tell you that I think that both parties are a mess. And Republicans need to fix their party, and Democrats, we got to own up and fix our own party. And put country over party and move this country forward. I have a small business now. I also teach at USD and other universities as a guest lecturer. I get paid to do it. That's how I stay afloat. And if I'm so honored to serve you in Congress, you will be my #1 focus every single day, and we'll have a town hall a month, and you'll hear from me. And I want to be a neighborhood congressman, not a national congressman. I want you to feel like you can call on me for your local issues, your personal health, your personal safety, your personal financial dignity. That's what I want to focus on. So with that, I want to say thank you so much for being here. I hope to have your support. I hope to earn it over the next couple hours, however long we're here for, and I'm happy to take some questions. Thank you.
Hopefully you can hear me with this is a slightly softer mic. Just so you know, when you do come up here, when we open up the mic, you have to eat the mic, guys. That is the only way that everybody's going to be able to hear you, is as close as I have it now to my mouth. So beyond my control. So I do have some questions that were submitted online through the RSVP website. 10 topics, 10 questions. Once we go through these and Ammar's answered those, you can go ahead and line up and queue up for questions. And again, please be respectful and responsible of other people's time. Ask one question if you have more than one. Go to the back of the line and keep comments very short, and let's try and make best use of our time. So, is Callie Roach here today? Are you here? No. Okay, well, this is, I had a topic on energy and environment, and this is kind of all goes hand in hand. So, Ammar, how do you feel about putting a price on carbon, and do you see a market-based approach to combating climate change as effective?
Good question. So, I feel like it got louder, or maybe I just have it in front of my face. So there are costs to carbon. We just don't notice them, right? There are like 4 dozen military bases in the U.S. that are not fully operational due to mudslides, fires, and rising coastlines, because most of our military bases are along the coast. And that hurts our military preparedness. And that's why you're seeing partially why DoD funding goes up every year. The Pentagon has called climate change one of the biggest threats to national security. A scarcity of resources, everything, all the conditions that create civil unrest, climate change is causing. In Russia, this is the only time I'll talk about Russia, but in Russia, there's huge droughts and fires, and it's caused the cost of food to skyrocket. Here in our district, in our own county, in California, we face the same thing. You know that the cost of carbon when you've lived in a home for 30 years and you lost it in a fire because we've had the hottest 5 years on record. You know the cost of carbon is expensive when you've never smoked a day in your life like I do. I do smoke, I'm sorry. But my grandmother never smoked, and she has emphysema because she worked at a cannery and there wasn't clean air. You know the costs of carbon are real when you have crops that are withering on the vine in our own district. There are costs of carbon that we don't see. We call them externalities. We don't know them, but they cost our economy, our working people every single day. And I think if people saw the real impact of carbon and attached it directly, we would change the way that we would operate in this country. So that's the first thing. I do think that there's a market-based solution, but I do think that if we put a cost on carbon, it would make consumers understand the real cost of carbon. The difference between ice and water is 1 degree. And I think that's an example of the difference between renewable energy and traditional means of energy. The moment that the price of renewable energy is sold lower than oil and gas and fossil fuels, the moment that happens, we transform our energy dependence on traditional energy forever. And do you guys remember when we had like these brick phones in like the 80s? I don't, because that was weird. But I'm sure you do. And they were this big, and all of us were like, oh my God, this is the best thing ever. And countries around the world, in the US, thought that the phone technology would accelerate in 30 years to be where it was 20 years ago. And the reason that is because the consumer made the decision. It wasn't up to the utilities. People wanted it. And even though the performance of these chips on the phones were accelerating, the costs were going down. And people started buying them, not just rich people. It wasn't just in people's cars. Everyone owns a cell phone now. Literally everyone has a cell phone. There's homeless people who have cell phones now, right? So when you allow technology to be in the hand of a consumer, and you get rid of the chokehold or the bottleneck of the utility company, you allow it to accelerate at a rapid pace. I think the same analogy for cell phones is what's going to happen with renewable energy. That's why I support community choice. I think it's a good idea. I think a lot of folks in our district would appreciate it. Even Diane Jacobs is behind it, and she's on the other side of the aisle, but it's one thing I agree with, among many others. That's where I think the market could push that in that direction. So I think the cost of carbon and then the price of renewable energy, the more we use renewable energy, the more ubiquitous it becomes, the lower the cost it becomes. The more you use oil or coal, the more expensive it gets. That's just the truth about the market. And it would wean us forever off of foreign dependence on energy, forever. Which is why I think sometimes the wars that we get in, we spend 8 times more than the next 8 countries combined on the military, but for some reason in San Diego alone, there's 32,000 people who serve our country, or their families are serving alongside them, that go to a food bank once a month. How does that make sense? Where is that money going? Right? So I think there's a big impetus for weaning us off of traditional means of energy. And when I was at the Department of Labor, my biggest priority was, and this is why I was against TPP, was because I was worried about the workers. I was worried about the transition of the workers. And I'll give you an example. There's a guy named John who lost his job in a coal factory, and he came up to me. We had people who were laid off because of the changing energy economy. And he said, "Look, Ammar," he actually said, "Look, Omar," which is not my name. He said, "I don't know what it's like to be an immigrant." I'm like, "I'm not an immigrant." He's like, "I don't know what it's like to have, affirmative action," which I didn't either. He's like, "But I had a job that I hated, but it was backbreaking work, and it put food on the table. And I've been doing it for years, and my mom did it before me, and my dad did it before her, and now that job is gone." And we said, "I'm sorry that job is gone, but you could retool and retrain. America's always about reinventing yourself. That's what is the heartbeat of America, is constantly reinventing yourself. Through every hardship, we're able to come up on top no matter what happens. We don't let the prevailing winds dictate America's greatness. We charge through it, and we overcome, and we adapt. That's what America is." We put him in this program called From Coaling to Coding. He's making double he's ever made. He's going to live longer for his kids, has better benefits, and has a job that he's really proud of, and will be a while for any automation to take over. right? And he has a good job. So for me, at the heart of the energy transition and the environment, it's also we got to make sure that the working people who built this country aren't being left on the sidelines. We're putting them on the front lines and giving them a fair shake to retool and retrain for the jobs that robots won't be able to take. So there's a way to do it. I think you do have to put a tax on carbon, but the way I would do it is make sure that the corporations are obstructed from passing the costs on down. Because that's what would happen if we didn't put a ceiling on. It has to come out of the CEO's budget, not the person who's working as a secretary's budget. So.
Aaron Esquire, are you here today? Well, darn. Okay. This one is about housing, which I know concerns us all. What can you do to make housing more affordable in East County?
It's a great question. So, San Diego has the 4th biggest homeless population in the country, and the 4th biggest homeless veteran population. So I have some opponents who kind of think that they're lazy, the homeless folks, or that they're just trash or whatever. I just want you guys to know that when we pass by them, more often than not, that homeless person is probably a veteran who gave up their lives and their freedom and their sanity so that you could luxuriate under the shade of freedom that you have today. They served our country, and at the very least, they deserve just to be treated with humanity, right? So, for me, there's a mismatch in funding versus the need in San Diego. And I don't want San Diegans or people in the 50th to put more money into this system. California is the 5th biggest economy in the world. As Californians, we put more into the federal government than we get out of it. And I'm tired of it. I'm tired of us asking for infrastructure reform or housing reform, and the only way we could do it is if we add more to the gas tax to San Diegans. It's time that we get more out of the system than we put into it. And we are 20th in HUD funding, and that doesn't make sense when we're the 4th most homeless city in America. So what I think we need to do is change and modernize the formula for HUD funding so that we can get more HUD funding and more assistance for middle-class families to own homes, not just rent homes and just have their money go into a vacuum. Home ownership is one of the most important aspects of middle class, the American dream. So that's what I would do. I would work with HUD to change the formula to get more federal funding. I know we love football here, but we're not going to get the stadium. So all that money that we spend or raise to get on a stadium that's just there, a surplus, we should be investing that in housing and other things like, doing what we need to do in East County to prevent the brush fires, replacing all the wooden poles with steel, burying them underground and creating a utility grid with rural broadband. Spend that county money appropriately, and I'll make sure we'll have more federal funding for these important local projects. It's time that California's 50th gets out of the federal government what we put into it, because we don't. We get gypped. We're the afterthought of San Diego. And San Diego is the afterthought of a lot of other places. So we're, twice removed. So that's what I would do. And the other thing is, when it comes to healthcare or housing or education, there's 2 ways to make that affordable. One is to subsidize it with federal funding, which I don't prefer as much as the second thing. 2 is giving the purchasing power in the consumer's hand, giving them a good paying job, giving them good apprenticeship jobs. There are 7 million job vacancies in this country and 6.3 million people looking for work. There's more jobs than people looking for work. Some of those jobs, you would need 3 of them to be able to live, but some of them pay $70,000 a year. We just don't have the skill set for it because everyone thinks the only pipeline to education is college. I've talked to Republicans in my district who've told me, I don't want my kids to get brainwashed at a liberal school. That's fine. Go get a vocational job, get a trade job. Let's introduce the industrial arts back into K through 12 and into community college. Teach people to earn and learn, right? Instead of having debt by the time they're done with their education. If we did those things, the average person in our district makes $23,000 a year. The average apprentice makes 3 times as much. If people were making 3 times as much on average, they could afford the cost of housing and healthcare and education without a government subsidy. And that's what I want to do, is teach them how to fish instead of giving them a fish. So.
All right, is Suzanne Sutton here?
Yay!
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 We got
You
one
were brave
here.
enough to come.
All right. excellent. So speaking of education, nice segue, unintended. The current Secretary of Education is trying to dismantle public education. What will you do to limit the attack on public education and restore funds that have been taken away?
That's a great question. Yeah, we've talked a lot about this. California is 42nd, I think, in the nation in terms of funding per state. Texas doesn't have a lot of funding per pupil, but they do a good job with education. So it's not just throwing money at it. Clearly, there's more to it. One thing I think we overlook is special ed education. That's a huge thing that we don't talk about. And there was the IDEA, the IDEA Act, which was put into by Congress, that ensured that 40% of all special education students, 40% of what they had to pay would be helped by the government. And they've never followed through on the commitment. Half of that is probably what they do now. So making sure that we live up to the laws on the books right now. And a lot of what we have in this problem, the problems we have in this country, half of it is that we're just not even enforcing the laws that we've already passed, right? That's one of them. The second thing is, I think we all agree that we need to de-DeVos the Department of Education, right? So, what does that mean? I think, look, the funding that we've lost for education, it stems from we had to find a way to carve out that cost to pay for the nearly $2 trillion tax cut that California did not get, right? I think California ended up paying, the average California as a state ended up owing $12 billion more in taxes than it had previously because of the tax plan. And I asked people all across the district, I don't know the answer to this, but how many of you, for the first time in a long time, did not get a refund and owed more to the IRS? Some great tax plan, huh? Are you all billionaires? You own stock? No, it's sticking it to the middle class. And the reason we have less funding for education and other programs is because we're trying to carve out space to give the wealthiest among us that break. But they don't need, they just generally don't need. The top 1% got 84% of the tax benefits. That's just the truth. So I'm not for taxing folks, but when you say that this plan is good for the middle class, that's baloney. When you say that the trade war is helping the middle class, we're paying for that tax. It's a tax on the middle class. And God bless the farmers and manufacturers who are backing Trump and they're like, we'll take the hit because other countries have taken advantage of us. It's true. But it's hurting the middle class. It's hurting China more than us, but it's still hurting us. I don't care about how China feels, but I care about how we feel. So back to education. The way we could get funding back from that we've lost is repealing this tax plan and giving more tax cuts and tax credits to working families, to children, to families who have kids with special needs. That's how you get this economy going. That's where the tax cuts should be going, and the tax credits to people who have children who are going to school. And there's a way to pay for a lot of stuff that we don't talk about. So let me tell you one thing. For me, everything I do, I try to find a revenue neutral way of doing it, meaning I'll take funding from this place and invest it there. I don't want to raise taxes on anybody, especially middle class people. But when I look at the top 1%, which I don't think any of you are, and if you are, I need you to join the campaign. I'm joking. It's a joke. There's reporters here, I'm joking. It's not. I have colleagues who are also running for Congress. It's a joke. I'm joking, Ellen. It's not serious. But there's a plan out there that says for every millionaire or billionaire, someone who makes over $50 million a year, let's tax above $50 million 2 cents for every dollar. If we did that one thing alone, we'd raise $2.7 trillion in the next 10 years. And it would only impact 75,000 families, none of whom live in this district that I know of. And that would be making sure that the wealthiest among us paid their fair share to the very countries that made their success possible. Only in America is that possible. It's a very different vision for funding the government than the current plan, which is let's take away money from education and Social Security, which is an earned benefit, not an entitlement. Hunter doesn't know the difference. An entitlement is him inheriting the seat. An earned benefit is what you're going to get when you retire for working your whole life. That's the difference. that we pay for these programs is making sure that we're not ripping people off to give tax breaks to the wealthy. We're not going to bring back jobs to America because we're in 2019 and they're smart and they want less overhead. That means they're going to have automation replace workers. And some of them don't follow the law. So they hire undocumented workers and they don't follow E-Verify. But the way that we're going to make sure that we fund education is getting rid of this tax plan.
All right, Evangelina Jones, are you here? Yay! Hi, Evangelina. All right, she has a great question about strategies for Republican voters. What is your main strategy to open up minds of Republican voters?
Good question. So, let me give you a journey of where we are, where we're going. So, last year, I got closer than anybody else did. Hunter usually wins by 27%. He won by just 3%. Gavin Newsom lost this district by 18%. So 15, and voter turnout was on par with California in this district. So I got 3%, Gavin lost, I got by 3% and Gavin lost us by 18%. 15% of people who voted for Cox voted for me. It's a healthy number of people. That's because I put country over party. I'm not for taxing everybody up to you know what. I'm not for taking people's guns away. I have some at home. I'm not for opening up our borders. I'm not for exploiting the debt because I have to inherit that debt and we have to find a way to pay it down, which means we're going to have less Medicare and Social Security. That's my message to this district. And I was just at the Santee summer concerts, which are awesome. Anybody go to that? Yes, last week? Dude, they were so good. There was like a great Queen band that played really good music. It was awesome. So I was there and then people were like, you know, we're so tired of the chaos in Washington. Just don't stoop down to that level. Be above that. And that's what people want. They're really tired of politicians being in their lives every day. We're used to just, for those of us who pay attention, we pay attention, but now it's just never-ending news cycle about politicians. They're just bleeding to every single aspect of our life. And I just want to be a neighborhood congressman who won't tread on your life. I'll do my job like you do yours. We'll check in every month. And then every 2 years you get to decide if you want me again. So that's what I'm focusing on. And I'm not the kind of guy who is just pandering to one party. I think there's flaws in the Democratic Party, there's flaws in the Republican Party. And in some ways I'm an independent leader. In other ways, I think there's, you know, a curse on both homes, right? On the Republican and Democratic side. So I want to be in there and be the person who's like, you know what, let's get the working class working again. Let's not say we're going to do all this stuff when we know we're taking money from corporations. And I'm not. I've taken zero corporate PAC money from anybody. And that frees me up to say what I mean and mean what I say. And if anybody tells you otherwise and you're like, well, you want to have net neutrality, but you're taking money from telecoms. You want to, you know, hold the pharmaceutical companies accountable, but you're taking money from pharmaceutical companies. You want to rein in the healthcare costs, but you're taking money from healthcare companies. Look at their bottom line. Look at who's giving them the money. They're lying to you. And that's true about Democrats and Republicans. So if we want to put country over party, win over Republican voters, we need to give them actual prescriptions. We can't just be the opposition party to Trump. We have to be the opportunity party for all. We can't just be attacking somebody. We have to stand for something. And if we want to be the majority party, then we have to lead like it. We have to be the party of the working class people and not sell them down the river and sell our votes to the highest bidder in Washington. If we do that, we're going to win this district, and I'm confident that we will.
As a PSA, if you want to find out about federal elected officials and what they take, go to opensecrets.org. You can plug in their name, and it'll show you everything. Also, the FEC is a very good source as well. All right, is Scott Medina Brzezinski here? Scott? No, okay. That's a mouthful to say. This is
It's like Ammar Campa Najjar.
Right, exactly. This is a question on foreign affairs. How will you work to repair the damage done by the current administration as it pertains to our standing with countries around the world?
It's a good question. So there's a presumption in that question of, has Trump hurt our relationships around the world? Depends on what country you're talking about. It really depends on what country you're talking about. Now, I agree with him that countries have taken advantage of us, no doubt. When it comes to NATO, when it comes to the UN, people aren't putting their fair share. It's just like California and the country. We're not getting out of what we're putting into it. It's true. But there has to be a strategy, not a day-to-day tactic that changes every single day. It throws people off. It throws his own cabinet off. That's why people say stop tweeting. Because allies don't know where we stand. The ones who helped us defeat the Nazis are confused. France and the British are like, where are Italy? They're like, what's going on? What's going on? Why are you meeting, with Kim Jong-un and snubbing Canada or France? Where do you stand? And America leads by the power of its example, not the example of its power. That's the moral fiber and the moral backbone that makes America different than any other country. And when we don't have backbone because we keep changing our minds, for better or worse, even if you just changing your position constantly, it hurts our standing in the world. And going to meet with dictators and not getting anything out of it, it's giving them way too much ground. So we need to change that. So one of the things, again, what did I say was the biggest national security threat according to the Pentagon? Not according to Ammar or Duncan Hunter or Mother Teresa, but according to the Pentagon. Okay. So we have to re-enter the Paris Climate Agreement.
Yes.
And when we re-enter it, we make sure other countries are footing the bill as well. China's the biggest, they're the biggest guilty actor when it comes to pollution. So make sure they're contributing their fair share and not let people rip us off. I wish the ideas that Trump has, the way he thinks about things, the concept was followed up with completion. But in between this and that, things happen and no one knows, nobody knows how to track it all. I'm not talking about voters, I'm talking about the people who have to actually implement it. In his own cabinet, the people that he said were great people, Rex Tillerson and everybody else, people who fought for this country, Kelly, so many others, they're like, we can't do this job anymore. And that's a problem. So I think we need to have steady leadership at the helm. I think we have to make sure that when we declare war on a nation, that is the constitutional duty of Congress, not the president. That's in our Constitution. And if we believe in the Constitution, we have to understand where the power rests. It rests in Congress because it has accountability to the people every 2 years. There's a reason that it exists this way. And that we are the closest thing in Washington to you because we come here every single month supposedly and talk to you and you tell us what you think. And we have to, when we draw a red line, and Obama made this mistake too, when you draw a red line, you draw the red line and you do whatever it takes to show that we're not being pushed around by other countries. So it's not just Trump. Obama had this problem too, and I worked for the guy. He had a red line with Syria. He did nothing. The Iran deal, not as strong as it needed to be, in my opinion. The best we could get, but not strong enough. And even Obama admitted to that. So we have to find our moral strength again.
Members of the Kumeyaay tribe. My family supports indigenous people and wants their communities to thrive. What will you do to support them?
Good question. So there's like 15 Native American tribes in our district, more than any other in the country. We want to make sure that the Bureau of Indian Affairs is still well funded because they do pay federal taxes. There are certain types of state taxes that they don't pay because they're sovereign nations. And therein lies an opportunity because corporations hate California. They really are. Like Toyota left to Plano, Texas. It's really prohibitive the amount of taxes that corporations have to pay here. It's just the truth. On Native American land, there is some protections around that. And I want to bring corporations to Native American land. Not just casinos, but good corporations that will create good paying jobs. 30% of Native Americans are in poverty. In real poverty, which leads to other choices and addiction and other problems that are heartbreaking. And I want to make sure that we have, that Native American tribes and Native American people have their own sovereignty, and it's always protected, and we never mince words about that. And we have proper investments in the Bureau of Indian Affairs. What I want to do for our district is I would love, my pet project, the thing I really want to do, is I want to bring SpaceX to the 50th district. Imagine the cowboys and the aliens scenario, that was just so cool. But not only is it cool, I mean, who doesn't talk about like bipartisanship, who doesn't like rocket ships? It's like the most American thing, right? So I'd like to do it because I know Elon Musk is crazy, but he'd go for broke. He would invest in infrastructure out of his own pocket just to make it happen. If he could be sold on investing in here. His headquarters is in LA. We're not too far away from that. If we did it at Pala or Pachanga or Vieja, somewhere close by, it would be a skip and a jump away. It would create a lot of good paying jobs, coding jobs, engineering jobs, construction jobs, supply chain jobs, cooks, janitors, so many different types of jobs. I would make sure that 30% of those jobs will be allocated to Native Americans. The other 70% to local communities, people who don't live in the Native American land, but close by. And you want to talk about the cost of housing, how about if you cut the cost of gas, commuting 90 minutes away, and you brought the good paying job right next door, right? Having a SpaceX there. And have the Native Americans be on the receiving end of American innovation, not the victims of it. Right? The poetic justice of that is also, I think, an intriguing component. But it would create really great paying jobs. And it would be this, I think, it would bring everything together, including defense contractors who would get a slice of the pie, because all that propulsion and all the stuff that you need to engineer a rocket ship to go into space, the military knows how to create that technology. And we could start making peace more profitable than war for defense contractors in the 50th. And get them to get a slice of the pie. So you have working people who are benefiting from it. You're getting the military on board to help us with it. You're helping reduce the tax burden for corporations. You're helping Native Americans. And you're creating economic mobility throughout the whole entire district. That's, I think, how you change it. And you bring small businesses on board too. Because all corporations, I worked with the National Chamber of Commerce, most of the contracts that helped my small businesses when I worked there were not federal contracts. They were corporate contracts to be on supply chains. Like when Toyota left to Plano, Texas, it was a Hispanic-owned business that helped build the headquarters there. So we're going to need to have small businesses helping us create these bases. So it helps small businesses, it helps working people, helps Native Americans, it helps everybody. And attracting a corporation like this, we have 15 lands. No other district in the country has that advantage. We need to leverage that to help Native Americans and people who call this district home throughout the 50th. If we do that, I guarantee people will be like, dude, that brown guy's doing good stuff. Even if he's a Democrat, he's creating good jobs and being aggressive. And that's going to be one of the first things I do. I'm like, Elon Musk, I need your help, let's do it. And if he does, I think that secures my re-election. So we'll see. But that's what I want to do.
Make sure you get me an autograph. All right, so Barbara Murray, I know you're here. Yep,
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for coming, Barbara. This is on immigration. Do you think that undocumented immigrants should receive free health care, therefore ignoring the health care needs of legal citizens, documented citizens?
No, I don't think anybody should get free anything, first of all. I don't, in terms of healthcare. I think that you should get what you put into the system. That's what I believe. And I think we have a free market economy. If somebody wants to pay for a service, they can do that. Doesn't matter who they are, they pay for a service, they can do that. What I want to do is have a healthcare system that works. Right now it doesn't work. 1 in 5 American dollars goes to healthcare. And we suck at healthcare in America. We're so bad at it. It's criminal how bad we are at it. We spent $3.5 trillion on healthcare last year. And we have tens of millions of people who aren't insured or underinsured, meaning they pay the premiums, so they have the country club membership, but they can't afford anything, so they never go. They can't pay the out-of-pocket expenses. That's a problem. We've got to solve that problem. And I think the most innovative thing we could do, the American way, is to introduce competition. You introduce competition, you lower costs, you increase the quality of care. So there's a whole bunch of ideas out there, and there's, I don't know what I haven't heard one idea from Republicans on how to solve healthcare. I haven't. I've heard repeal and replace Obamacare for God knows how long. I've never heard an idea. Darrell Issa, who might be running in our district, resigned because he didn't go to town halls and he couldn't handle the answer of why are you repealing the healthcare plan without a proper thing. You're going to get 100 million people taking off their healthcare because they have pre-existing conditions. You're going to take away healthcare for 30 million people who didn't have healthcare before the ACA. You're going to get rid of the donut hole effect that helps seniors. All these things with no replacement. I have not heard a convincing replacement. Duncan Hunter's big, bold idea for healthcare when it comes to Medicare, you know what his idea is? Live longer. We'll give it to you when you're 72. Are you kidding me? That's fresh, coming from a guy who doesn't work. No committee assignments. No committee assignments. We're getting 50 cents on the dollar for this guy. That's where the real work happens. It's really fresh coming from him. Go live longer. Give me a break. What I think we should do is introduce competition. And Democrats have like a bajillion ideas. Everything from like free everything for everybody, which is never free because middle class families are going to pay for it. I don't support that. I don't see why seniors should pay more in taxes when they already have Medicare to pay for a Medicare for all plan. Here's what I believe in. We try something in America. FDR says, if you believe in something, you try. And if you fail, you admit it admittedly, you admit it frankly, and then you try again. So I do believe introducing a Medicare option would reduce the cost of healthcare. I don't have this purity test. Here's what I think. I think if you allow people to buy in, not force them. I don't believe in government-run healthcare. By the way, that's not even what Bernie's talking about. He thinks that you should have private healthcare doctors and insurance plans and hospitals. We're not trying to be Britain or some other country. Not even the most extreme person thinks that. So let's get rid of that idea of government-run healthcare. Government funded healthcare is what Bernie's proposing. What I'm proposing is you buy into Medicare at the age of 50 or older. If you do that, you just got the most costly population off of the private healthcare plan. So now all of a sudden premiums would go down for everybody. That's the way it works. So the most costly people would be able to buy into Medicare. What would that do to the private insurance companies to adapt? They would have to compete. How? By lowering their costs or increasing the quality of their care. But I think we should have, there's 160 million people in this country who have healthcare through their employers. To force them off of it, I think is a problem. Especially when unions and others have worked so hard to provide that healthcare and fought for it, and their people's, salaries are baked into it. You can't just say, hey, I'm going to take away healthcare from 160 million people and give you a better alternative. I think you could introduce this, and even the Senate bill, for those of you who pay attention, the Senate bill expands Medicare over 4 years to 55, 45, 35, then to everybody. If in the first year, my view is, if that didn't work, I'd say, okay, let's stop, didn't work, try something else. Because we don't know how it's going to have the macro impact. But I do believe if we expanded for people who are 50 and older, gave them an option to buy in, people would go into it, it would reduce the overall cost, increase the quality of care. Then you move it to 45, then you move it to 35, and then you allow everybody to compete on the public option. And look, the VA has this government health care. The TRICARE is the same thing. The Native Americans have it. I would make sure that if you're a veteran, or if you're in the military, or if you're a Native American, this plan would not impact you at all. But I'm not comfortable with raising middle class taxes so that everyone could have health care. I'm just personally not. And I think there's a way to do it that isn't quite that. So I think if you gave Medicare for all who want it, that's fair. It reduces the cost and allows the free market to compete. And then nowhere in this conversation, even when you talk about healthcare, the biggest cost, 25% of healthcare costs, is pharmaceutical costs. 1 in 5 healthcare dollars goes towards, or 1 in 4 goes towards pharmaceutical costs. Do you know why it costs so much money here? People think that other countries take advantage of us. It's the multinational pharmaceutical companies who are taking advantage of us, because the same medication here is way more expensive than just across the border in Canada. It's the same company, the same medicine. So we're subsidizing the rest of the world's pharmaceutical drug costs. That's what's happening. We're being taken advantage of by multinational corporations. And then you have people in Congress who take money from those folks and say they want to reduce the cost. That's baloney. We should open up our market to Canada so that you could purchase medication from them. They're an advanced, well-regulated country, and other advanced countries. And we should allow Medicare to purchase medication in bulk. Because when you purchase something in bulk, what happens? When you go to Costco, what happens? It reduced the cost. We spend too much. Yeah. But if they buy it in bulk, they can sell it for a lower cost. And that's what I would do to reduce the biggest cost to healthcare, which is the pharmaceutical aspect. I think that plan, purist, progressive, or whatever the hell you call it, it's putting the 50th first. It will actually do the job. You introduce competition, you lower costs, you increase quality. That's the best way to ensure that we have healthcare for everybody who wants it in this country, without forcing people's hand. That's not the American way. The American way is innovation, competition, choice. We want to give people more choices, not less choices. And taking 160 people off of their health care and saying, yeah, overall you're going to spend less money because you're going to pay more in taxes but less in deductibles and co-pays and premiums, people aren't going to be happy with that. And I know my district enough to know that that wouldn't fly here. And there's no way of actually, it would cost $30 trillion and there's not a clear way of how you would pay for it. That Medicare for all idea. A lot of foam, not a lot of beer. And we need to make sure that when we do this, we do it right, and not let the perfect be the enemy of the good. And I think that will actually, under Medicare, you broaden the base, you lower the rates for everybody. So it would not hurt seniors who are expecting their Medicare. It probably would help. It would add more to the pool, and it would be a self-sustaining thing. And under my plan, and you can go to my website, it's very extensive. No one is forced to get off their health care. No one's forced to go into a health care plan. You're giving people more choice. And that's a lot more choice than the Republicans offer. I have not heard one, except for taking what we have now. And that's not going to work for me, so.
All right, we have 2 more pre-submitted questions. By the way, when I go to Costco for one thing, I end up walking out with 10, so.
Yeah, you maybe not an example for the
Me and everybody else
sorry.
there, right? All right, so there's 2 more questions that have been pre-submitted, and we're going to go ahead and open up for open mic questions. So, be prepared, think about your question. Again, please keep it to 1. And as soon as we're done with these 2, we're going to have you guys all line up with Bob over here, and we'll go from there. All right, so this one's on Social Security. Stacy Hoover, are you here, my dear? Whew, okay. Do you believe that this is a multi-pronged question. Do you believe there's a surplus Social Security? Is surplus Social Security money what we do to stop the government spending of our Social Security? And would you be willing to raise Social Security benefits if there is such a thing as surplus funds?
Okay, I'll tell you what I want to do with Social Security. So 20% of people who live in our district and live in Southern California, 20% of seniors who get Social Security, 20% of us, 1 in 5 of you who are seniors, Social Security accounts for 90% of your monthly income. That's huge. It's heartbreaking. People were not able to save for retirement. They retire with less than $500 in their bank accounts. It's 40% of Americans. Heartbreaking. I would ask you to raise your hand for that person, but I don't want you to feel embarrassed or hurt. The least we can do is to make sure after a lifetime of work that you could have your earned benefit of Social Security and never worry about it. There's a couple things that we can do. One, this rule that if you're both retired, you and your husband or you and your wife, and one of you someone else dies, your spouse dies, you have to choose which Social Security plan you take, yours or theirs, depending on who makes more. Why does the government all of a sudden take away money that was owed to somebody who worked their whole lifetime? That makes no sense to me. Yeah, but I think that's still somebody's earned money. It should go to the spouse, in my opinion. The other thing that I have a problem with is there's a cap at $130,000. So everything you make beyond that does not get counted for Social Security. Because the idea is that for that one individual, $130,000 is all you need over the extension of your working life to pay for your own Social Security. That doesn't make sense to me. I think we should raise the cap. And the third thing I would do is, there are people who don't want Social Security. They're like, I'm fine paying for it my whole life, but when I get there, I don't really want it. There's billionaires who are like, I don't need a $2,000 check a year. Leave that for somebody else. If they want a tax credit, that's fine. So this is some of the things that I would do. And I think that, Social Security is an earned benefit that you earn over the course of your lifetime. I think it would be very odd if, you saved up money, which is what you do. When you work, part of your paycheck goes to Social Security. Imagine if you just put your money in a sock drawer. Can the government just come in and say, you're dead, I want to take it now, and not give it to your spouse? I have a problem with that. And I think there's a way that you can make it affordable and not bankrupt the system. And the way that you do that is those three things I mentioned, plus making sure that my generation is working. Because everyone's paying backwards, right? So I want to make sure my generation is working good paying jobs so that we're putting Social Security so by the time you reach 65, you don't have to worry about, am I going to have, if you're 1 in 5 of those Americans who retire and 90% of your income a year, or a month a year, probably too, if you average it out, comes from Social Security, I'm sorry, Medicare and Social Security are earned benefits. They're not entitlements. You work your whole life for it. And it's about dignity. You know, a paycheck is more than just a paycheck. It's about your dignity. And a lot of people don't feel like they have their dignity. They're working 2 to 3 jobs. They're killing themselves. And we need to make sure people are properly compensated. And you know, I talk to people who, you know, are workers, who are police officers, who are firefighters, and I talk to spouses who have lost their husbands or their wives because of serving this country. And we have people who are running for Congress in this district who want to get rid of the pensions, get rid of the death benefits for people who are survivors of folks. And it's Carl DeMaio. Carl DeMaio has spent a lot of his career, who's running now, he doesn't even live here, but he's running for Congress, raising a ton of money because of his radio show, and he's just trying to rip away the dignity of working people. And I'm not going negative and attacking him as a person. You need to know the contrast. And there's some people you'll never meet because they won't be as successful as me, and you need to know the difference out there. Everything I propose I want it to be revenue neutral, or asking the billionaires to pay their fair share. 2 cents for every dollar above $50 million. It changes their quality of life for nothing. If you literally if you're a billionaire and after $50 million we're going to tax you 2 cents for every dollar you have after that, it doesn't change the quality of life of a single person who's in that bracket. But that $2.7 trillion will change the life of that person who 90% of their income is from Social Security, or that person who needs Medicare, or that person whose Medicare doesn't do enough. That's why they need Medicare Advantage or supplemental private insurance, which is why I don't support Medicare for all, because even with Medicare, you still need supplemental health care. A lot of people need that. So making sure that we have an economy that works for working people, that rewards work, not just wealth in this country. The tax on capital gains is less on the tax on income in this country. Work is punished and wealth is just rewarded. That's a problem. You shouldn't work your whole life. There comes a point, I talked to somebody who told me that when you get so wealthy, you don't work hard for the money works hard for you. That's a problem. Hello? Yeah. But that's a problem, and we have to create a fair playing field. We're not trying to punish wealth in this country. We're just simply asking for those people who have made so much money off the only country that made it possible to give back to that country, to help that person who gave up their life and their sanity, who's living on the street because they served this country, give them their dignity back, give them a fair shot. The people who built this nation, give them an ability to retire with dignity. That's all we're asking for. Fairness. That's the American way. It's not you're on your own. We're the United States of America. We pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America. Indivisible. We're one people. And I'm Christian, and my faith teaches me that the way that you treat the least of these, what you do unto the least of these, you do unto me. So that's what my faith teaches me. That's what the long tradition of America teaches us. Give me you're hungry, you're tired, you're poor, you're weary. That's who we are. We have to know who we are, because if we don't remember who we are as a nation, we're going to lose sight of who we are. We'll become a country with borders, with a GDP, and that's pretty much it. And we forget the soul of this nation. And we're just, like the Bible says, whitewashed tombs. Beautiful on the outside, but dead on the inside. We cannot lose sight of who we are. And asking the wealthiest to pay 2 cents for every dollar above $50 million, or 3% above after $1 billion, that's not asking for a whole lot, folks. Asking everybody to take responsibility, but also lending them some opportunity, that's the American way. That's who we are. And if we really are who we are, we need to invest. And another thing, how many of you have kids or grandkids who are from Alpine who go to high school? Any of you? Any of them go to Alpine High? No, that's serious. Who here goes to Alpine High School? Who here knows somebody who goes to Alpine High School? How long is the commute for those kids on buses? And a lot of kids, I know, they're driving, they're getting their permit, they drive, and I've heard children who've died because they can't navigate the terrain. That's not who we are. We can invest in our kids. We can invest in our seniors. We can make sure that, a mom doesn't have to decide between working and raising her child. For God's sakes, it's the bare minimum we could do as a country. And we're not asking for anybody to do what's outside of their means. They're very wealthy. That's who we are. That's what I believe we should be. The opportunity party for all, not just the opposition party, not just the party of no or the people who just say no. We're a country of broad shoulders and big hearts. We could do great things together and get out of this tribalism. And I think the least of these are children, people with special needs, parents who are raising kids on their own, seniors who have spent a lifetime working, and the last thing they need is to have the rug ripped from underneath them. And the veterans who have put their life on the line for our freedom. That's the least of these. And all of us one day will be held to account. And I want to say I was on the right side of history, and I spent my time, my life, serving those the way that my values taught me to serve. So I don't even remember the question anymore, but that's just what I believe. So.
I call it rooting for the underdog because that's very American. All right, this is the last question, and then we're going to open up the mic. So again, we'll ask everybody to line up here respectfully and queue up respectfully. Okay, this is Alyssa Flora. Are you here, Touch? Yay! All right, I'm 3 for 10. Okay, this is about guns. What is your approach to gun violence and white supremacy?
So, number one, I have guns in my home. Number two, we should decouple those two questions. Because not every act of gun violence is happening from white supremacists. We have to just be honest. We can't conflate things. There's a lot of kids who are isolated, who feel lonely, mental health illness, shoot up a school. That's happened. They're not just white supremacists. We have to be honest about that. I'm brown, so you know where I stand on white supremacy. I believe we're all created equal, one nation under God. I believe in our Constitution. I believe in my Bible that tells me that we have to look at each other through heaven's eyes, that we're all created equal. That's what I believe. And I reject all types of violence, every kind of violence. We should not accept, no matter where it's coming from. Whether it's foreign or domestic terrorism, we need to speak up against it and square our shoulders and not mince words and say that we condemn all forms of terrorism, domestic or foreign. When it comes to gun violence and when it comes to gun safety, look, we have guns in my home. I'm not trying to take away everyone's guns. There are some Democrats who want to do that. We are not Australia. I'm sorry, we're America. And if you're going to swear an oath to defend and protect the Constitution, you cannot honestly say that and disregard the Second Amendment. That's just the truth. That's who we are. But here's the things that we can do. 80% of people believe that we should have background checks that are not invasive but necessary. It makes no sense that there's people who can't get on a plane but they could buy a gun. That's odd to me. I like what the military does. I don't think the military is trying to take away their own troops' guns. Their whole purpose is to train somebody to have a gun. Before you get a gun, you do a background check, you get a psych evaluation, you do some training, you get some safe storage. Those are good ideas. We should do those things. That's what I think we should be doing. We should have red flag laws. So if there's someone who's a domestic abuser, that the police are taking the guns away. Even Trump supports that. I told you I support some of the things Trump does and says. I support when he says on a good day that he wants background checks. I support that Trump. Not the one who says the next day that he's not for it. I support the guy who stands up to special interests, not the guy who changes his mind the next day when they have a certain talking to him. I support the red flag laws. I think that's the right thing to do. And I really do think, I propose on my website, it's called the SAFE Act. It's Securing American communities of faith through education. We saw what happened at the synagogue in Poway. Devastating. Devastating. A couple weeks before that, the same shooter tried to burn a mosque. That's a real problem. And if we treated acts of violence equally, we'd be able to make sure that we catch this person upon the first act, and we move heaven and earth to find that guy and bring him to justice. So we have to empower law enforcement, make sure if you do use an act of vandalism or threaten violence against a school or a place of worship, that you are penalized severely and there's a strong deterrent. We do have to have some gun safety measures and make sure that we're protecting each other. But I do believe that people should be able to have guns for hunting or for personal safety. There's a lot of veterans who hunting is their way of, it helps them cope with the PTSD. So we have to understand who we are as a country, who we are as a district. We have a big problem in this country, and a lot of it has to do with the wrong guns in the wrong hands. Right? What happened in Vegas, there were a bunch of good guys with guns, and they couldn't stop the bad guy with a gun. That slogan, it oversimplifies and does injustice to the people that we've lost due to gun violence in this country. But we don't have to propagandize or politicize the solution. It is complicated. It is complicated because of who we are as a nation. It's complicated because, who here's a Democrat? Just raise your hand real quick. All right, cool. Who here's a Republican real quick? Really? That's it? Okay, the rest of you just don't want to tell us. Okay. If you're a Democrat, do you believe that banning prevents? Raise your hand if you believe that. If you believe a banning would prevent.
Assault rifles.
Okay. Do you believe that banning abortion would prevent abortion? Okay. Do you believe that banning drugs would ban illegal drugs? Do you believe banning immigration would ban illegal immigration? We have to be honest with ourselves. We know that banning does not prevent. We always say, if you ban abortion, it's going to make it more illegal, more harmful, and more frequent. Simply saying we're going to ban stuff is not going to stop bad guys from getting the gun. Now, does it reduce the amount of guns out there? Yes. But the worst people are going to still get those guns. And I guarantee you there's a lot of people who just want to get a certain type of rifle, and they just want it because they think it looks cool, or because they were former military, or it's a tradition. And if you make it illegal to get certain guns, they're going to find someone who's going to sell that gun illegally, and they're going to carry an ideology with that gun, and that makes that gun even more dangerous. We have to understand that this is a very complicated issue, and we can't give ourselves a sugar pill saying it's going to be solved with just one thing. It won't. It won't. Now, are there restrictions on the Second Amendment? Yeah, that's why we don't have bazookas and flamethrowers and tanks in civilian hands. I like the military model because it's safe storage, background checks, psych evaluations, training, and when you're on a military base, unless you're certified, unless you're military police, or you have some exemption, you can't carry a private firearm on a military base. Like, even if you're an instructor on a military base teaching a class, you can't carry a private firearm in most cases on a military base. So why would we have our teachers do that in a civilian setting? That's what Hunter wants to do. On top of raising and teaching your kids almost full time, let's have you be responsible for saving our kids' lives. And also, like, I'm glad my teachers didn't have guns, because I wouldn't be here today, because I was not the greatest student. But if the military doesn't believe that you should have a personal private firearm on a military base because it causes safety concerns, increases suicide rates, then why should we have weapons of war in civilian hands? That's just a simple question that we should be able to address. And the idea of an assault weapon ban, we don't even have a definition, it changes. So to say that you support an assault weapon ban, what does that mean to every person? You know, Diane J. Who's the one who has that big Feinstein has that really extensive definition? But even the ban won't solve the problem. If you're a Democrat, there's three things that you just said wouldn't stop it, right? You just said that abortions, drugs, and immigration would not be stopped with a ban. it would be more dangerous, more illegal, and more frequent. We have to be honest with ourselves. So we're a different country, right? And we know that there's other places in the country where they have really strict regulations and they have more violence because other states close by have more lenient gun laws. That means that people will do things illegally to get a gun. And we have to be honest about it. We have to change the culture around this issue and treat the underlying issue for a lot of these causes, not all of them. Some people are just angry and they want to kill people. But a lot of it has to do with mental health, diseases of despair. You know, these high school kids who are shooting up schools. You know why they're doing it? Because they're getting bullied 24/7 online. It used to be 9 to 3. Now online it's nonstop, and you have both parents working hard. That the moral fabric of our families are being torn apart. All this adds up. And if you think there's a silver bullet, no pun intended, and there's one solution that will fix it, it won't. Every action has a reaction. And when people thought Obama was going to take guns away, gun sales went through the frickin' roof. And if you think that gun sales will plummet if we ban assault rifles, they will continue, but be purchased illegally from the wrong dealers, and it's even more dangerous. Because think about the person who could hoard guns and sells them illegally. Think about the mentality that person has. Do you want people who are law-abiding, sane, trained, law-abiding gun owners to go talk to that person about a gun? It's tough. I told you I'd piss and impress all of you, right? So here's the truth. That's what I believe. And we're going to get to the bottom of this, and we're going to work our tails off to solve this problem of gun violence in this country. But there's no one answer, and that's just the truth.
All right. All right, so if you have questions, I would ask, don't be shy, please come up here.
Thank you all for coming.
Rate, standard rate for new customers concurrent with the start of the full transition for time use. Those new customers at that point who start services once the full transition.
Yeah. The question is, what is my take on Speaker Pelosi's position on impeachment? I don't even know the current position of hers, because it's changed a little bit. I believe that the point of impeachment, it's about sending a message, right? The idea of impeachment is at this point, it's like who we are as a country, what we're about. Here's the problem, it's too late. The election's around the corner. If you don't like him, beat him at the ballot. And that's the truth, and I'll tell you why, because he won't leave office if you try to impeach him. Do you think half the country's gonna let that happen? Beat him the old-fashioned way. If you wanted to impeach him, it should have been done a long time ago. We missed to do this in a civilized fashion, we missed it. But I really believe that we don't, elections should determine this. And we have a couple more, a year and some change, to have people vote for or against the president. And so waffling on this and not showing leadership. And here's the other thing. I don't like that Trump says you either do legislation or investigation, because Newt Gingrich was impeaching the living hell out of Bill Clinton, and we had a surplus, and we put people to work, and we invested in education, and we passed laws, and we had some growth under Bill Clinton while he was being impeached. So I don't believe if Bill Clinton can do it, then Donald Trump can do it too. And it's a BS excuse that he's not willing to put country over party or service over self to do this thing. And he's trying to hold the country hostage because he's being impeached. There was a $2 trillion infrastructure bill that everyone agreed to, Pelosi, Schumer, and Trump, and then he blew it all up because he was being threatened to be investigated. That's not the American way. That's not what you do when you're president of the United States. So with all due respect, I think that whether or not he gets impeached is irrelevant to me. He should still be the president. And I think the moment of impeachment is behind us, if we're being honest. And we should just be him at the ballot if that's what you want to do. So.
Which comic book superhero do you most admire?
Oh, dude, that's a good question. It changes. It used to be Captain America. I really like Batman. I don't know why. I don't know why. He's not a superhero. That's why I like him, because he's just a dude. Who has a lot of money, but I like Tony Stark too. He's pretty cool. He woke up and realized oh my gosh, I'm on the wrong side of this. I should be using this for good, make peace more powerful than war, and protect the country. And I like that. So, Yeah, Batman or Tony Stark. I don't know who would win in a fight. Whoever wanted to spend more money, I think. Hi. Yeah, I'll repeat the question.
Okay.
Although I know what the question is going to be, but that's fine.
You know what the question is?
I heard that it's going to be something I'm not going to like, but it's okay.
Well, no, I'm Dr. Helen Horvath. I'm the chair of the San Diego Military Veterans Advisory Council. I was appointed by Diana Jacobs, and I did a lot of work with the veterans community.
Thank you for your service.
And I'm also an Army vet.
Thank you.
So I'm not going to take from your family. Don't worry, that's not what I was going to
Ah,
ask.
okay, good. That's what I heard you were going to do.
Okay, well, it's already out there.
Yeah.
The Israeli International News.com quoted you as saying, on Israel-Palestine peace, the final peace deal will be a deal neither side wants, but everyone needs.
Mm.
Ultimately, Israel will have to acknowledge its wrongdoings as a sovereign state and accept Palestine's rights to self-determination, independence, and equality.
Mhm.
And it goes on to talk about renouncing fanaticism.
That's what Palestine has to, the Palestinians have to do.
Okay, and acknowledging their Jewish neighbors.
Yes.
Yet within that quote you say occupation,
Mhm.
being occupied in Gaza. And when you made that statement, Gaza hasn't been occupied since 2005, quote unquote. And how are you going to separate your family's
Yeah.
background and policies? Because I'm not going to keep on.
No, I appreciate it. It's a very sweet way of putting it, honestly.
And
Someone gave me your card and said, she's going to attack you. This is not an attack, it's a genuine question,
it's
so I
a
appreciate
genuine
it.
question, because I was in, frankly, I was in Germany when the Congressional happened and all of the bombings and other things. And so my question to you is, how would you manage foreign policy on that? Because I have an idea. I work with congressional reps. I work with politicians
Right.
and stuff. And it's going to be, reputation-wise, hard to separate yourself from those issues. And how do you stay above the fray?
It's a good question. So, when you ask me about my family, I don't think you're asking about my cousin Bianca, who's here, who's from Chula Vista, or my brother Kareem, who's going to serve in the Air Force, or my uncle Bill, who's sick right now but served in the Army as well, or my stepdad, who's a veteran as well. I get what you're saying, but I have family on both sides. My dad's a citizen, and my mom's here. I know my mom better than I know my dad. My grandfather died before I was born, right? And I know you didn't get into any of that, but I've been very stern on what I think needs to happen. I have a story that I wrote on the Hill where, Bill Clinton was trying to work on a two-state solution with Ehud Barak and with Arafat, and he was begging Arafat because he said that Arafat didn't have command over the facts, and they almost had a two-state solution, one that not everybody would have liked, but we all needed. And he begged Arafat, and he said, please, please, please don't say no yet. I know you're going to leave Camp David 2000, and you're going to say no to this, but just wait, think about it. I'm going to give you until Christmas. And then he called him, and he could tell Arafat was going to say, and I was like, I leave in January. I'll give you until January. Please let me know what you want to do. Arafat calls him and says, you're a great man, Mr. President, but I can't accept this deal. And Bill Clinton said, I'm not a great man. I'm a failure, and you've made me one. For Bill Clinton to admit that he's a failure to anything is a lot. That's how much was riding on this. But for me, look, I have a partner that I'm very committed to, and she's Jewish. I might have Jewish children one day. You talk about conflict of interest. There's nobody in this room who wants to see this conflict ended more than me, in a peaceful way. And the only way you do that is if both sides make compromises, like I said on the website, or in that piece. And whether you want to call it occupied land or disputed land, whatever the nomenclature you want to use, it's an unresolved conflict. And our international allies and the U.S. has said that the settlement building is counterproductive towards peace. And that is something that all of us agree to. Even Trump has said it's hurtful. So I take the same position that Trump has taken, that Obama has taken, that so many people have taken on this conflict, saying that the settlement building has been counterproductive. It's an encroachment on disputed land, if you want to call it that, if that makes people feel a little bit more comfortable. And it further fractures whatever future two-state solution may exist and makes the reality on the ground impossible to forge a two-state solution. And unless we forge a solution, there's going to be conflict generation after every generation. I think the way we solve this problem is not looking back about anyone's past family. We have to set aside our ancestors for the sake of those who are yet to be born. And so for me, I'm looking at what kind of world do I want my children to live in? What kind of world do I want the next Ammar Campa Najjar to live in? Do I want that person to see what I've seen or see what you've seen? I don't want that. And the only way you do that is if you get both sides to compromise and set aside the toxicity on both sides. And that's been my posture in this town hall, where I've pissed off some Democrats, I've pissed off some Republicans. My posture towards the Israeli conflict pisses off a lot of Palestinians who don't want to give to me because they want me to take a certain stance, and I won't do it. And there's some people who don't support the other side. That's how you know I'm probably on the right side, because both sides aren't happy with what I have to say. And I'm not appeasing either side, and I'm trying to do the right thing.
I'm just saying, I'll pass the mic on, is that the issue, still involves Hamas.
Yeah, Hamas has threatened to kill my dad, by the way, just so you know. And they would kill me because I'm Christian.
Well, and
So.
according to the courts in Norway.
Yeah.
But, basically.
Yeah, he's retired.
He's retired.
Yeah, he's an American who's retired in Norway.
And so the issue becomes.
Yeah. But no, let her finish her question.
Well, it's just a comment.
Yeah.
Just.
It's fine. It's fine. Go ahead. Thank you for the question. Thank you. Okay. Did I make you mad with my answer? Are you mad at me for my answer on healthcare? There you go. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm concerned, though, about if there's going to be a way to have comprehensive immigration reform. I'm concerned, and it hurts my heart when I see people being criminalized and torn apart when they're seeking asylum in this country. I'm hurt, and I'm concerned also there's not enough uniformed people that want to do the work, and they're working illegally, and they're being torn away from their families, their employers are just skating by.
Right.
Concerned about that. Concerned about dreamers. I mean, these are people that were brought over when they're kids, and I mean, their status is a mess right now. So, but it's like it keeps getting pushed in the back. That's getting pushed in the back burner. The criminalization. I mean, people are calling these folks illegals, when they're legally are able to come over and seek asylum, and it's I hate what we're turning into as a country. We're not trying to be welcoming and helpful, and we're just looking do you see a solution?
I do. Thanks for the question. So, the question's about immigration reform, and it's a really, really important issue because immigration is the economy. It's not like immigration versus the economy. It is the economy. And here's what I'll tell you. I will piss off everybody in this room right now, but I'm going to be honest with you. Because I think you've had enough lying politicians in your life, right? I would have supported building the freaking wall if we would have gotten Dreamers. And I'll tell you why. Studies show, the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, and other groups show that if you pass the Plastic Dream Act, the contribution of Dreamers every single year would be $48 billion or $480 billion over the next 10 years. Meaning that they would pay for the wall in half a year. And we spent stupider money with nothing in return. So much. So this tax plan is an example. I would have been fine with it. It's a monument to stupidity. It wouldn't solve the problem. Even the Border Patrol says that we need more than just a wall. But if I got something in return for it, I would have been like, fine. And then that whole thing that Trump has been running on, we wouldn't have it anymore. And now people would be like, okay, what are you doing for the economy? What's this tariff thing? What's this other thing? everyone who supports Trump is holding on to the wall. If we just said, here's the wall and here's the dreamers and knock yourself out, enjoy it, I think a lot of Republicans would say, okay, we got the wall, we got the dreamers, we don't hate dreamers, which is what happened with the last time we had the showdown between dreamers and the wall. We shut down the government. The Democrat side shut down the government over the dreamers. The Republicans shut down the government over the wall. And now people who didn't even hate dreamers now hate dreamers because they basically said, we're not going to get our paychecks because we want to protect people who aren't Americans. And now they hate them. It was a failure on the Democratic side and on the Republican side. I would have said, build it, give the dreamers citizenship, they'll pay for it in half a year. It's fiscally responsible now. Mexico's not paying for it. And that one promise that Trump is holding on to win re-election would have been out of the deal now. And then we would have seen him for what he actually is, which is giving money to the wealthy, which is taxing farmers and manufacturers and not having this trade war worked out with China, maybe putting us into another recession. We have early indicators of it, and we would have solved this problem already. And the other thing that we need to do is seeking asylum is a legal right. And that's who we are as a country. People have sought asylum for time immemorial, and this leaving execution and persecution. Can you imagine what people must be fleeing to come to a country they know hates them? Can you imagine? So we need to have more judges to adjudicate this stuff quicker. We need to expand facilities so that when we do hold people, it's not for longer than 72 hours, and people could be united with their families. We could do this in a humane way. We're America. We could do this. And the way we would pay for immigration reform is through dreamers. If you want, I can't get Mexico to pay for the wall, but I can get Mexicans or Americans now to pay for it. That's just the truth. And we could be done with this thing. Like, it's annoying. There's so much other things we got to deal with. And, you know, if you give status to people who are, it doesn't deal with the people who are here, right, the wall. There's 11 million people who are here. I'd give the dreamers, the million of them, 800,000, I'd give them citizenship. They know another country, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they serve our country. My parents got busy here and that's why I'm an American. Those people fought for our country. They deserve citizenship, they've earned it, especially if they're honorably discharged. So give them citizenship. And then the parents and everybody else, here's the thing. If you're afraid of drug dealers and criminals and people who are bringing in guns and drugs and all that stuff, you know who is oppressed by undocumented immigrants the most? Other undocumented immigrants, because they live in the same communities. If you want to be in a safer environment, let them be our eyes and ears. Give them status to work here. Most parents that I talk to who are undocumented, they're like, I came here for my kid. Give them citizenship. I probably wouldn't even vote. I want to work here with dignity and not worry about who's watching my back. And if I get raped, I want to report to the police and run in the middle of the street and yell. But I can't do that now because I'll be deported back to where there's more of that waiting for me. These are the real stories of immigration reform, not what the advocates and everyone's saying on both sides, but this is the real human story of immigrants in this country. And 1 in 10 American jobs are created by an immigrant. 1 in 5 small businesses are created by an immigrant. 40% of the Fortune 500s were made by immigrants. We're a nation of immigrants, for God's sakes. And that's what replenishes America every single generation, is an influx of people who want to work hard, contribute, and be part of the greatness of this nation. Right now, that's not who we are. It's almost comedic. It'd be funny if it wasn't so sad how hypocritical Trump's story is when it comes to immigration reform, given who his family is or who is his wife, right? It's unbelievable. So we need to be able to be honest and not be satirical about immigration reform and say, you know what, fine, do it. Do the wall, do the dreamers, get the funding in here, and treat people with dignity. Help immigrants learn English so they could, acclimate and do the work. And I guarantee you that if you do that, you bring them out of the shadows, employers won't be able to illegally employ somebody and lower the wages of everybody and force American workers to compete for lower wages. If you bring them out of the shadows, they compete for fair wages, and then you have competition based on skill, not who's going to cost you the least as an employer. So we have to hold employers as accountable as we do the immigrants. And also make sure that we understand that farmers and other folks need those seasonal workers to come in here and do the jobs that nobody here wants to do, right? And treat folks with compassion. And I guarantee you, if you have an equal level playing field where immigrants have status, if you really believe American workers are better trained, they're gonna outcompete based on skill set. But don't let it be a race to the bottom when it comes to who's gonna make the least and therefore I'll hire them. It's wrong for everybody. So there's an economic and moral imperative to passing immigration reform. The Senate, I'll give you an example. Everybody loved the Senate bill that was being talked about a couple years ago. It was bipartisan. We had John McCain and Marco Rubio until he turned on himself, and we had other Democrats. You know how much that bill proposed in border security? $40 billion. Democrats were on board. That's more than the wall. So I think we have to just remember what we used to be okay with and not make this polarizing and partisan. And I think if you're seeking asylum in this country, it's your constitutional right to do so. But if you're a threat to our country, we'll get you out of here. Because everyone else who wants to live a good life is fleeing that, and we don't want that to come with them. So we could be compassionate, we could be strong on our values and strong on the border, be a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants without having to compromise either one. And I think both parties, one has picked the values and one has picked the wall, and that's why I'm fed up with both. But you need both to security and compassion to fix this problem. So everyone's not voting for me? Cool. I hope you'll vote for me. Anybody here who did not support me in the beginning now support me? Anybody? They left, they're gonna go vote.
I recently came back from Scandinavia, visited the countries of Latvia and Estonia, and all the countries, Sweden and Denmark and Finland. It varied between 18 to 24 months. The wife would stay home with children, and they had free or reduced childcare. Childcare prices, I mean, for a single woman, not go off the road or whatever happened, basically, it's if they have multi-children. What do you plan to do to make that an issue that's more affordable?
Yeah, so the child care thing, like I said at the beginning, thank you for the question. Investing in our youth and our children, investing in single parents who are trying to raise children, that's the bedrock, I think, of making sure that we have a good economy, a good society, and everything else. It really solves economic strain, it solves the problem of gun violence for some people. It's the mother of all solutions, is investing early in our youth. And my solution on making sure that's affordable is three things. One is that tax on the above $50 million, the 2 cents per dollar. That's $2.7 trillion that go to different programs, including childcare. The second thing is, since Reagan, we've doubled the amount of tax loopholes for the wealthy. It used to be $800 billion, now it's $1.6 trillion. We need to curb some of that. Third, the fraud, waste, and abuse that we spend in the federal government. I work at the Department of Labor where there are 5,000 people working in a building, and some of them took like 3-hour lunches, and clearly not the best use of our money. So we have to make sure to modernize and add some technology to our federal government so that it catches up with the rest of society. Our government is operating with technology that's based in the 1960s. It's woefully outdated. If we streamline it and modernize it, that would be more funding that we go to use towards public programs, including childcare. And if you start investing early, the studies have shown you'll have to invest less in someone's life if you invest in them early. And so it's fiscally responsible to do that. It's morally responsible. It's our most sacred duty to take care of our children, prepare them for a life of success throughout their entire lifetime. So that's how I'd invest in it, in a way that did not burden middle-class families.
So my question is regarding your marketing message.
Oh,
You're going against 40 years
yeah,
of someone you lost last time.
like this much, yeah.
Yeah. Now, my question though, what are you going to be doing in the
Yeah.
future to combat that? Because your marketing message, as I remember, as that went out, was I don't remember it going out that much. I don't know what was out there in the public. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do differently now to make
Right.
up that 7% or 3%? Where
Yeah.
you lost? How are you going to pick up and get your message out there so that it's going to resonate?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
That's a great question because I could have all these great ideas and then nothing happens. Here's the number one thing I'll promise you is that me and Hunter, it turned into like this mud fight. It's just a race to the bottom. Who's the worst guy? And that bothered me because here's the thing. We respond to negativity more than positivity because it gets our attention more. That's just how we are as humans. I feel like you have a marketing background, and if it bleeds, it leads, right? That's what happens in the news. But here's the thing, like, people need to know what I stand up for. And I believe the people in this district were good people. They voted their values. I don't think they voted against me. I think they voted their values, but not enough of them got to hear mine. So I've been going everywhere. For me, it's going to be focusing on the ground, talking to people, handing out those pieces of mail, going to the Santee summer concerts, having this event a year before the frickin' election. So God bless you guys for coming, because I appreciate that you're coming way early. So starting stronger. Last time we finished strong, but we want to finish stronger. The only way you do that is by starting stronger. I announced last cycle in March. I announced this cycle in January. So we're giving ourselves that extra, runway to get over that angry inch, as you call it. And I think that's going to help us. And then also me talking about what I stand for and against. I'm not for open borders. I'm not for taking everyone's guns away. I'm not for exploiting the deficit. I'm for making sure that we have an economy that works for working people, that you could live, work, and retire with dignity. I believe in putting country over party, people over politics. And if you believe in that message of change, that message of bringing people together, we don't need a hunter, we need a gatherer, somebody who will bring people together. And if we're able to do that, we'll win this election. That's what I would say. And also, I'd love to talk to you afterwards about some of your recommendations. Thank you, sir.
Good one.
I was due for an applause. Thank you. Please clap. I'm kidding.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I'm just kind of curious. Well,
And here.
I'll repeat it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Basically, I have an issue with some of your future members of Congress that call the detention centers like Nazi concentration camps. That really annoys me because I have worked with people that survived Nazi concentration camps that have been numbers and tattooed on their
Right.
arms. I have worked with people that have lost families because they were hiding from Nazis. Couldn't get the health care because they didn't know if the doctor was turning them in, or if the family, or the doctor would get in trouble, or the family that was hiding would get in trouble.
Right.
They had people that they knew that they never saw again. They had people that were shot by Nazis just because they wanted to like shoot you. I can't understand why people can feel that way.
That's a good, I appreciate your comment. And, I think what happened in the Holocaust, you can't compare it to anything. 6 million people were killed. The Jews are the most oppressed people in human history for millennia. And I think what we have in this country is a lot of hyperbole, a lot of rhetoric on both sides, and there's this comparisonitis that's happening. It's a terrible illness where everyone's comparing their pain and saying, I suffer more than you, and therefore I get to be the victim. It's a race on who could be the victim. And I don't like that. I think that we have to respect what happened in the Holocaust and not try to make what's happening today. I don't think it lends any weight to an argument. You can just look at what's happening in these locations, and it will bring so much sorrow to you. Because these are just children. They're not immigrants, they're not illegal, they're not brown, they're not white, they're not Mexican, they're not American, they're children. They're just kids who want a better life. And they're the least of these, right? But to compare that to what happened in Nazi Germany against the Jews, I think it's rhetoric. I wish we would have more action and less rhetoric, less vibrato and more action. And I think it divides people. I believe you probably have a lot of compassion for those children who are being detained. But it's a huge distraction because there's these conversations being had trying to equate one thing to another. And liberals talk about how love is love. I talk about how pain is pain. Regardless of your views or your views, what you are, we don't have to weaponize or politicize pain. It's just pain. and we don't have to compare pain. We can say what happened in the Holocaust was terrible, and there's no event in human history that even comes close to it, with the sheer number of people who were murdered just because of who they were. And then also say there are people today, because of their brownness or their status, who are also being targeted. But we don't have to draw moral equivalency. We can just say it is wrong, and that's it. And we're going to treat the issue that we have in 2019 without having to harken back and compare it to other things. Just deal with it today, and not have to divide the coalition of people who are compassionate like you. And now you're busy trying to, you're frustrated at some people who are talking smack or just trying to create a false comparison, when you are fully, I think, invested in the idea that people who are children should not be trapped in cages, right? But now you're distracted because you have members of Congress who are trying to get a tweet or a headline. And that's not the way you govern. So for me, I know I'm a little bit loose-lipped, but when I get to Congress, and even throughout this conversation, when we have important conversations like this, I promise you I'll be steady, and I will be responsible when I say, and not let my words derail what I think we need to do to get this country together. But I'm also going to be a straight shooter, like the wall and the dreamers thing. When I say something like that, I mean it. I'm not joking. I'm not being flippant. But I'm not going to draw comparisons and distract people from what the actual issue is. And I hear that concern, and I understand it. I'm frustrated by the rhetoric on both sides as well. So I hear you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Take my question. This is just for you.
Okay.
Ask any office. We'll ask you about special interest. You know, our party has very high, very visible special interest. Get elected, get we're going to be in a situation where special interest leaders will be. How many members is
I already have. I got in a lot of trouble for not supporting the gas tax last year. I got in a lot of trouble for it. I just didn't think it helped my district. And so I've already taken positions. I'm already going to get flack for the wall comment I made today. I want to be in government. I want to serve you if I could serve you. And at the end of the day, I answer to the voters in this district. If you want to vote me out, you vote me out before you voted me in. But I will always be honest. I will always say what I believe is best for the country. I will listen, I will learn, and try my best to lead not just one party, but everybody. And it is very hard to do because some of us don't even agree with it. We're dreading Thanksgiving because we don't agree with our own family members. And my job is to get this collective family called the 50th to believe what I'm doing. All I can promise you is transparency. And whenever I have an issue, I'm going to come to you and tell you, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm going to get this kind of backlash from this person. I need you to be behind me if we all agree on this. Some of you will be angry with me, but I will always be honest about where I stand on things. And if you want honesty, I got it. If you want somebody who's going to tell you one thing and say something else, there's so many of those people that you can vote for. There's so many of them who are running for Congress. One of them is our congressman. But if you want someone who's going to be honest with you, painfully so, I'll be that guy. And I will put country over party. I'll put this district first, even if it costs me my seat, because I'd rather do what's best for this district than be in Congress and go against what's best for this district. I would happily lose my seat if the special interests in my party were against me because I refuse to back down on what's best for my district. I don't want to be a congressman if it means going against my district.
Hello, my name is Craig Branch from Santee, and I want to ask you about our water here in the 50th.
Yeah.
If the climate crisis gets worse, it'll stop snowing in Colorado, and we get 60% of our water from Colorado. You talked around the carbon tax a little bit. Are you willing to support something more aggressive and comprehensive like the Green New Deal?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, just so we know, and I think you know this, the Green New Deal is a non-binding resolution. It literally has no legislative appropriations teeth whatsoever. I think you know that. Like, okay, so a non-binding resolution is, there's the Green New Deal, And then another non-binding resolution is the Congress passed every year that whoever wins the Super Bowl has to get congratulated. That's what a non-binding resolution is. It has no teeth whatsoever, has no appropriations impact, nothing, except for the product that it comes on. Maybe that's the money that you spend on it. The question of the Green New Deal, it asks a very pointed question. What costs more? Doing everything we can to protect and save the planet in the next 12 years, or doing nothing and letting the world that we know end as we know it? What costs more? Doing everything to save this planet or doing nothing? Obviously, given those two ultimatums, doing everything, right? The thing about the Green New Deal that I don't like is that it has a bunch of things in there that has nothing to do directly with in the environment, like Medicare for all, which the argument is the environment, climate change causes healthcare concerns. Guaranteed federal job, right? Some versions have universal basic income in it. There's a lot in there. It's too top heavy and people aren't going to get behind it. And that's why it's just a non-binding resolution. It's a statement, it's an aspirational statement of values. And I support the idea that we should do whatever it takes to protect this environment. I do support that. And I do believe that we should phase out traditional means of energy like fossil fuels and coal and oil, because it's going to lead us down to a path where we have no planet left to inhabit. And climate change is causing, man-made climate change is causing and accelerating the conditions that you talked about, the droughts, the fires, and the hurricanes and floods that are hurting the whole country. So for me, I'm willing to take bold action. I'm not taking any corporate PAC money. I'm willing to completely phase out the fossil fuel industry. I'm willing to help retrain and retool the people who work in those industries right now. It's going to happen whether we want it to or not. The market's going to shift, like I said, towards renewable energy. The market's going to just do it by itself. So might as well equip people with the opportunities to adapt to new types of work. And when it comes to the droughts and the water problems, we need to be innovative. We have to be more innovative than the problems. So desalination is one of those things. And people are concerned about the cost. You need water. You just need water. Purification, conservation. There's a whole suite of options to deal with the crisis that we're facing with climate change as it pertains to water. And we should have an all of the above strategy when it comes to desalination, repurification, making sure that we're just changing some small things that reduces the amount of water waste, and stuff like that. So that's what I'd be willing to do, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to protect our environment. But the Green New Deal in its current form, the reason it's just a non-binding resolution is it's just too many things, and some of it doesn't have to do directly with the environment. So for me, I agree with the idea that we should preserve this planet by investing in renewable energy, changing a lot of things, making sure that federal buildings are powered by solar, so on and so forth. But I think by the time the Green New Deal goes into actual legislation, it will look very different. And I'd like to see and be part of that to make sure that we're not hurting the very people we're trying to help, middle class families, the working poor, certain ethnic groups, farmers, and the like. So I want to make sure it's just done in a way that's economically responsible. Yeah, no problem.
Hi, Ammar.
Hi.
My name's Rebecca.
Hi.
And just so you know, I only came here to say hi and
Hi.
meet you in person. I have a little bit of comment and then a question.
Mhm.
So when you were saying about, oh, my name is Salam, just think of this. When I was born, my name was Rebecca Gonzalez Perez Montalban y del Sol. Okay? So I got to be.
You do.
And even though I've known your family for 25 more years.
What side of my family?
Las Campas.
That's right.
Los Campas. That's the only family I know because these guys are, well, all of them are wonderful. Such a huge family, loving, everything that you can imagine. I think you've grown up in such a beautiful family.
Thank you.
And that's just cool. So I wanted to say, I know all your tias.
Mhm.
Maggie's like my favorite.
Yeah.
But anyway, the fact that you clarified that you're not an immigrant is very good because even though, like I say, I've known your family all these years, just coming in here, I thought immediately, you look like an immigrant, right? But who's the immigrant?
Right.
Is it you or is it me?
Right.
Now, do I blend in? Of course. And you're not an immigrant, and I am. And it's just the way people look at you that makes you think. I blend in just because of the fact that I speak perfect English, all that, and I grew up mostly in the United States. I left Cuba in 1963, so, I'm the immigrant. We're seeking asylum, of course, from communism.
Right.
This country took us in, we love it, everything's great. But when I see these little kids, like I said, in those cages, that's what kills me to see that. Because I got here, even though I was a little kid, didn't know the language, didn't know people, my family, no one spoke English. And immigration at that time sent us out to New Jersey. That's where you get the little accent over here, and coffee and dog and all that.
Goodbye.
But, that is heartbreaking to me, to see that those children, and they're gonna be traumatized for life,
Right.
probably. So, although I was Republican most of my life.
My whole Maggie is too.
Yeah,
To this
I
day.
did. And why was I Republican? Because all Cubans in Miami are
Right.
Republican.
Right.
That's where I come from. So I switched over as soon as Obama was on that ticket, because I saw somebody who actually cared and had humanity in him. And that's what I see in you. I see you have humanity. I mean, just your name, Ammar, means in Spanish to love. I mean, just that alone. And the family that I know that you come from, it's just like, how would anyone not vote for you?
I did not put her up to this. I'm telling you right now. Gracias, señora. Thank you.
I mean, you are to the people. And I lived here in Descanso 16 years, and I've actually started to see a change from people thinking that all of us immigrants are bad. Because once I talk to them and I say, hey, I'm an immigrant, soy cubana, vengo de Cuba, estoy aquí para estar libre and to have a good life, okay? Then they see it differently.
Right.
But I even overheard someone saying here at my table that what you need to do is shave all that beard off and be.
I'd look 12. People would be like, you're not like the 12.
But why? Because they think that you're an immigrant. They
Right.
think that you're, and the lady was saying, well, is it because of his religion? Thinking the Muslim.
Mm-hmm.
No. We shouldn't be looking at a person and making our assumptions of just the way you look. Because you can look at me and think I'm all kinds of different nationalities,
Right.
but I'm not. I'm Cuban and I speak perfect Spanish. I've kept my culture all these years, and my kids all speak Spanish. Everyone is like that. So, basically, my question is, I see you, Ammar, at 30 years old, which I believe you're younger than my son. I see you in 20 years being our president.
Don't you put that curse on me. Don't you dare.
You know that us Cubans somos antenas también.
That's true.
Okay?
You take that hex off of me right now.
No, I can see you as that, and of course, a long time from now, I'm thinking 20 years, but it could be sooner. I mean, in 20 years, yo voy a estar en la casita de mi hija, sentada ahí con la, con 80 años casi, okay? So I'm saying, can I at least think, and you at least think about me?
Let me win this election first. I need these people's support. I don't even know if I have your support for the 50th yet. I hope I do. Thank you. Thank you so much. Look, we're at a moment, an inflection point in our nation's history. And I know I was flippant about some comments, but I want to be very straightforward about who we are. Again, I said we're fighting for the soul of our country. I do believe we could welcome people to this country who want to work hard, contribute to the fullness of this country, and also be a nation of laws. I don't see any reason why we can't be compassionate and also a nation of laws. And it was just really heartbreaking to see those children who, on their first day of school, didn't know where their parents were. And their parents were being taken from their workplace. For all those people who say that immigrants are lazy, it's interesting that they were being taken from their workplace. it's heartbreaking. These kids who are crying out saying, my mom, my dad's not a criminal. He's a hardworking person. All just to make a political point. It's just, there are bad people in this country. Okay, some of them are immigrants, some of them are citizens, and they don't want to help this country. We should deal with them the right way. But there are people immigrants who make America more American, who contribute to this country, who help people unclench their fists and extend an open hand, who, just soften people's hearts a little bit and remind us who we are. And that's why this race is so important for me. I know that this district, we get called like a bunch of backwards, bigoted, backwoods people. We're not. We're not. We have good, we have bad. But I know that there's 50% plus one of people in this district. If I talk to them and if I market to them the right way and share with them what I shared with you today, I'm confident we could win this race. And I think it would send a message about who we are in the 50th district. We're not people who, respond to our darkest impulses, but we can be summoned by the better angels of our nature, and we can come together. We can replace a hunter with a gatherer. We can put country over party. We can disagree without being disagreeable. We can wrap our arms around these big problems that we face and fight together, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, to take back this country, to take back this district, to put it in the hands of you. You're my bosses, not the special interests in Washington. And we can pass immigration reform and make sure we have an economy that works for working people. Reward work as we reward wealth in this country. Make sure that we protect everything that we believe in this country, in this district. Understand that government can't do everything. Government isn't the solution to all of our problems. Like, for example, the wildfires that we have here. We're going to have, SDG&E is going to be doing a workshop on the 14th, right in this room, I think, for a fire safety fair. You should go to that if you care about it. Government can't do everything alone. I'll give you an example. I worked at the Department of Labor, and there was a homeless guy who lived, him and his wife, right next to my house. He was just on the street. And I thought to myself, this guy and this woman, I guarantee you, if they had the dignity of a good paying job, they get back on their feet. And if I work at the Department of Labor and I can't get them a job, what the hell am I doing there? I'm working at the Department of Labor. Our job is to give people jobs. That's what I'm doing. And so I talked to the Secretary of Labor and I was like, I'm going to write you the best story for those in public affairs. Help me get this guy off the street, give him a good paying job. Let's get him to cut the line. I want to make a story about how apprenticeship works for everybody, even people who are homeless and down on their luck. I even personally, with my own money, bought him the paint equipment that he needed for his first job. We got him an apprenticeship painting job. And I was like, and my boss was like, you're gonna fail. He's gonna fail you. I've seen this time and time before. You can't just give him a job. It's not gonna work. And I was like, nah, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And you're just a bureaucrat. I know what it takes to help people. Like my mom and me, we worked hard and look where I am. You can't even tell me. I worked at the White House from being a janitor. I know hard work. I know what it could do. And I just wanted to believe it. And I gave him that job. I gave him the stuff. 2 weeks later, he calls me crying, and he said, just forget about me. Just leave me for dead. I'm drinking again. I don't want your help. I couldn't even do this. I said, what happened? And he said, well, my first day at work, my friends were saying, let's go get food. And he said, I didn't have money yet. I didn't get paid yet. So he said he forgot his wallet. And then his friends said, okay, that's fine. And a couple weeks later, he said his friends agreed to drop him off from work, or drop him off home. And he was like, no, it's okay, I'll take the bus. And he was insistent. His friends were like, we'll drop you off. Don't worry about it, man. We've had a long day, we'll drop you off. And he got angry, and that was the day that he hit the bottle. He said the one thing that was supposed to make him feel normal made him feel so abnormal and out of place. He thought the job would get things done for him. And I was like, crap, okay, well. And my boss was like, what did you learn? I'm like, it's not enough. Government can't do it by themselves. You need wraparound services. You need mental health. You need housing. You need a good paying job. What I did with this guy, because this guy's life is still in shambles, and I didn't want that on my conscience that this guy would die on the streets after I tried to help him. I took him to church. I put him on the foot of the cross. I asked my pastor, just help him. I can't do anything. They put him on a program. They were building the next church. They had him do some of the work. And then they had this program where he put up all the lights in Georgetown in DC. And his gift for Christmas was a job. And the way that they funded it was, this church was part of a nonprofit that got a federal grant from the Department of Labor that was doing this work of working with nonprofits and private-public partnerships to put people to work. And I learned my lesson, that government can't do it all by itself. And we need to all do it together as a community, as a country, and government is just one tool to help each other create this beloved community. And government can't do everything. It has its limits. So even when you vote for me, and if I get to Congress, I'm going to need you as much as you're going to need me. And we're going to have to fill the gaps that government is going to create and make this the district we want it to be. That's what I learned the hard way. And I know government can't solve all the problems. So that's why big government's not the solution for everything. It's smart, strategic government to help lift people's lives up, give them opportunity, and they'll take responsibility. That's what I believe in. That's the American way. And that's what immigrants, I think, and people who just don't have a fair shot deserve in this country. And I'm grateful that, for example, Cubans, when you come to this country because of wet foot, that's what they call it, which is a weird term, but yeah, you're automatically a citizen, right? And that's why it's different for different groups, and we're not a monolith, the Latino community, and people need to understand that. We all have different ways of coming here, we have different stories, different obstacles, but as a country, we're supposed to help each other.
Let's talk about wildfires.
Yes.
We haven't talked about that yet.
I'm surprised.
The community of
Maybe they all read the story we did together.
Well, maybe, but a lot of people might want to hear it. So, you, community of Alpine lost dozens of houses last summer in that devastating wildfire. It started on federal lands, in Cleveland National Forest. And Cedar Fire, of course, the worst fire in San Diego history, also started on federal lands. And yet, the current administration, the Trump administration, has been trying to slash budgets for
Firefighters.
federal firefighting. They've tried to withhold even pay with CAL FIRE. I think they finally worked that out. And even though Congressman Hunter's father lost his own house in a fire, crickets. We haven't heard him be a vocal advocate, Congressman Hunter, on behalf of doing more to protect this district from these devastating fires, which of course with climate change, the fire chiefs and everyone all say are only going to get worse.
Right.
Fire season out year round. So what are your ideas for trying to get the federal government to get more of those tax dollars back to California to fight, to prevent fires and then to fight them once they occur?
Great question. So even Dan Jacob, I think she said, either with you or KPBS, she said, we're never going to be able to stop the next big fire, right? That's what she said. Kind of like a very fatalistic mentality, but it's becoming, with the Santa Ana winds, like our district is susceptible to this stuff. And we need to be able to treat this like the emergency it is. And the hots are getting hotter, and we're having record high heat waves and fires. So again, our federal budget, yes, this was a federal issue, and we're cutting funding for CalFed. We froze it for a bit. We're cutting funding for firefighters and all those stuff. Do you know why that's happening? That's happening because we're trying to carve out space to pay for this nearly $2 trillion tax bill, $1.5 trillion. So we have to cut money somewhere because we're not making up the revenue because we're giving tax breaks to the wealthy. And a budget is a statement of values. And I do not think that the top 1% need to be richer than they are. When you're rich at a certain point, when you're that rich, I gotta believe that it doesn't change your lifestyle. You're just competing with the guy who's richer than you. And you're doing that at the expense of funding public projects and things like, our firefighters and making sure that we could, properly send money to the county. Because we get outspent by so much compared to LA. I don't even think San Diego County had a county fire agency until the fires that happened in '07. So, and we decommissioned it, I think, in the '70s, and then didn't recommission it until that big fire. So there are things that we can do, and we just need more funding for it, and that's what repealing this tax plan will do. And I also think properly, paying our firefighters, because they are really working double time, is important. Not taking away their pensions, not threatening that, if God forbid something happens to them, the benefits for the survivors go away. That's something that one of my challenges is proposing. It's a problem. It's a step in the wrong direction. And then SDG&E has done a lot of great work. They really have. The thing that they're going to be doing in a couple weeks is important. They made a commitment to replace all of the wooden poles with steel. That still has not happened yet. And that's great cause of concern. They also talked about reimbursing people who lost their homes in fires or lost something. That hasn't fully happened yet, too. They're doing a lot, and I'm sure they think they're doing the best they can. There's more that can be done. We have to ask everyone to do their fair share. The federal government has to do its fair share. Companies like SDG&E, who caused the fire in '07, have to do their fair share for the damage that has not been given relief to. And I don't think raking or whatever is going to solve the problem. Let's be serious about this stuff. But just being good stewards of our open spaces and our land is important. As citizens, we can do stuff. And that's where SDG&E is going to give that training probably about what we can do for fire safety. But it's going to take a full court press. We're going to have to field the full team to deal with this problem and many others. It's going to take groups like SDG&E, it's going to take the federal government, it's going to take a reappropriation of our values and our funding to combat the threats of climate change from wildfires and droughts and everything else. But we have to reposition and realign what our values are. And this tax plan that was passed, it's a statement of values, and it's a lot of money. That half of you raised your hand and said you didn't get a refund. Well, that same pinch you're feeling is what our firefighters are feeling. So we need to be able to reappropriate our funding in a way that is in alignment with our needs and our values and our concerns. And right now, Hunter supported the tax plan. This is why he never wants to debate me. Wouldn't that be great if me and Hunter actually debated, right? We have a conversation. He voted for the first tax plan, the first version of it that didn't get passed. The first version did not have relief for people who lose their property and homes in fires and earthquakes, but it had relief people who lost their homes in hurricanes and floods. Last I checked, California has a lot of earthquakes and fires, and he didn't care. Darrell Issa even voted against the first version. Darrell Issa. That's the only feather in his cap, is he didn't vote for this tax plan. That's going to be the one thing he'll say against Hunter, is I didn't vote for the plan that would have hurt California. And Hunter said, why should I support, he said, why should I be against a tax plan that hurts California? He said, California's stupid. I'm like, come on, dude. Like, really? Your own father lost a home, his home in a fire. So it's a statement of values, and Hunter has laid his bare. And Carl DeMaio has too. So it's a statement of values and making sure that we're getting proper funding and we're holding everybody accountable, from the county to the federal government to corporations like SDG&E, who had a hand in what happened and admitted it plainly, and still have us think a little bit more work to do to make amends, which is why they're having that fair in a couple weeks. So, thank you.
Hi, I'm Kim. One of the few advantages I have for being old is that I was able to go to college and graduate from college with very little debt, because college was much more affordable. I wondered if you could comment on what's happening with our millennials and people your age who are graduating with crippling debt.
That's a good question. So I have some debt myself. So I feel like some of you are dozing off. Let me get you guys to wake up for a little bit. You guys still with me? Yeah. All right, cool. You still want to win Congress and The question is, what is my take on Speaker Pelosi's position on impeachment? I don't even know the current position of hers, because it's changed a little bit. I believe that the point of impeachment, it's about sending a message, right? The idea of impeachment is at this point, it's like who we are as a country, what we're about. Here's the problem, it's too late. The election's around the corner. If you don't like him, beat him at the ballot. And that's the truth, and I'll tell you why, because he won't leave office if you try to impeach him. Do you think half the country's gonna let that happen? Beat him the old-fashioned way. We should have, if you wanted to impeach him, it should have been done a long time ago. We missed to do this in a civilized fashion, we missed it. But I really believe that we don't, elections should determine this. And we have a couple more, a year and some change, to have people vote for or against the president. And so waffling on this and not showing leadership. And here's the other thing. I don't like that Trump says you either do legislation or investigation, because Newt Gingrich was impeaching the living hell out of Bill Clinton, and we had a surplus, and we put people to work, and we invested in education, and we passed laws, and we had some growth under Bill Clinton while he was being impeached. So I don't believe if Bill Clinton can do it, then Donald Trump can do it too. And it's a BS excuse that he's not willing to put country over party or service over self to do this thing. And he's trying to hold the country hostage because he's being impeached. If there was a $2 trillion infrastructure bill that everyone agreed to, Pelosi, Schumer, and Trump, and then he blew it all up because he was being threatened to be investigated. That's not the American way. That's not what you do when you're president of the United States. So with all due respect, I think that whether or not he gets impeached is irrelevant to me. He should still be the president. And I think the moment of impeachment is behind us, if we're being honest. And we should just beat him at the ballot if that's what you want to do. So.
Which comic book superhero do you most admire?
Oh, dude, that's a good question. It changes. It used to be Captain America. I really like Batman. I don't know why. I don't know why. He's not a superhero. That's why I like him, because he's just a dude. Who has a lot of money, but like, I like Tony Stark too. He's pretty cool. He woke up and realized like, oh my gosh, I'm on the wrong side of this. I should be using this for good, make peace more powerful than war, and protect the country. And I like that. So, yeah, Batman or Tony Stark. I don't know who would win in a fight. Whoever wanted to spend more money, I think. Hi. Yeah, I'll repeat the question.
Okay.
Although I know what the question is going to be, but that's fine.
You know what the question is?
I heard that it's going to be something I'm not going to like, but it's okay.
Well, no, I'm Dr. Helen Horvath. I'm the chair of the San Diego Military Veterans Advisory Council. I was appointed by Diana Jacobs, and I do a lot of work with the veterans community.
Thank you for your service.
And I'm also an Army vet.
Thank you.
So I'm not going to take home your family. Don't worry, that's not what I was going to ask.
Okay, good. That's what I heard you were going to do.
Okay, well, it's already out there.
Yeah.
But the Israeli International News.com quoted you as saying, on Israel-Palestine peace, the final peace deal will be a deal neither side wants, but everyone needs. Ultimately, Israel will have to acknowledge its wrongdoings as a sovereign state and accept Palestine's rights to self-determination, independence, and equality. And it goes on to talk about renouncing fanaticism.
That's what the Palestinians have to do.
Okay, and acknowledging their Jewish neighbors.
Yes.
Yet within that quote, you say occupation, being occupied in Gaza. And when you made that statement, Gaza hasn't been occupied since 2005, quote unquote. And how are you going to separate your family's background and policies? Because I'm not thinking on you.
No, I appreciate it. It's a very sweet way of putting it, honestly. Someone gave me your card and said, she's going to attack you. This is not an attack. It's a genuine question. So I appreciate it.
Question, because frankly, I was in Germany when the German autumn happened and all of the bombings and other things. And so my question to you is, how would you manage foreign policy on that? Because I have an idea. I work with congressional reps. I work with politicians and stuff. And it's going to be reputation-wise hard to separate
good question. So, when you ask me about my family, I don't think you're asking about my cousin Bianca, who's here, who's from Chula Vista, or my brother Kareem, who's going to serve in the Air Force, or my uncle Bill, who's sick right now but served in the Army as well, or my stepdad, who's a veteran as well. I get what you're saying, but I have family on both sides. My dad's a citizen, and my mom's here. I know my mom better than I know my dad. My grandfather died before I was born, right? And I know you didn't get into any of that. But I've been very stern on what I think needs to happen. I have a story that I wrote on the Hill where, Bill Clinton was trying to work on a two-state solution with Ehud Barak and with Arafat, and he was begging Arafat because he said that Arafat didn't have command over the facts, and they almost had a two-state solution, one that not everybody would have liked, but we all needed. And he begged Arafat, and he said, please, please, please don't say no yet. I know you're going to leave Camp David in 2000, and you're going to say no to this, but just wait, think about it. I'm going to give you until Christmas. And then he called him, and he could tell Arafat was going to say no. He was like, I leave in January. I'll give you until January. Please let me know what you want to do. Arafat calls him and says, you're a great man, Mr. President, but I can't accept this deal. And Bill Clinton said, I'm not a great man. I'm a failure, and you've made me one. For Bill Clinton to admit that he's a failure to anything is a lot. That's how much was riding on this. But for me, look, I have a partner that I'm very committed to, and she's Jewish. I might have Jewish children one day. You talk about conflict of interest. There's nobody in this room who wants to see this conflict ended more than me, in a peaceful way. And the only way you do that is if both sides make compromises, like I said on the website, or in that piece. And whether you want to call it occupied land or disputed land, whatever the nomenclature you want to use, it's an unresolved conflict. And our international allies and the U.S. has said that the settlement building is counterproductive towards peace. And that is something that all of us agree to. Even Trump has said it's hurtful. So I take the same position that Trump has taken, that Obama has taken, that so many people have taken on this conflict, saying that the settlement building has been counterproductive. It's an encroachment on disputed land, if you want to call it that, if that makes people feel a little bit more comfortable. And it further fractures whatever future two-state solution may exist, and makes the reality on the ground impossible to forge a two-state solution. And unless we forge a solution, it's going to be conflict generation after every generation. I think the way we solve this problem is not looking back about anyone's past family. We have to set aside our ancestors for the sake of those who are yet to be born. And so for me, I'm looking at what kind of world do I want my children to live in? What kind of world do I want the next Ammar Campa Najjar to live in? Do I want that person to see what I've seen or see what you've seen? I don't want that. And the only way you do that is if you get both sides to compromise and set aside the toxicity on both sides. And that's been my posture in this town hall, where I've pissed off some Democrats, I've pissed off some Republicans. My posture towards the Israeli conflict pisses off a lot of Palestinians who don't want to give to me because they want me to take a certain stance, and I won't do it. And there's some people who don't support the other side. That's how you know I'm probably on the right side, because both sides aren't happy with what I have to say. And I'm not appeasing either side, and we're trying to do the right thing.
I'm just saying, I'll pass the mic on, is that the issue, still involves Hamas.
Yeah, Hamas has threatened to kill my dad, by the way, just so you know. And they would kill me because I'm Christian.
Well, and
So.
according to reports, he's in Norway.
Yeah.
But, basically.
Yeah, he's retired.
He's retired.
Yeah, he's an American who's retired in Norway.
And so the issue becomes.
Yeah. But no, let her finish her question.
Well, it's just a comment.
Yeah. It's fine. It's fine. Go ahead. Thank you for the question. Thank you. Okay. Did I make you mad with my answer? Are you mad at me for my answer on healthcare? There you go. Thank you. Appreciate it.
I'm concerned though about way to have comprehensive immigration reform. I'm concerned and it hurts my heart when I see people being criminalized and torn apart when they're seeking asylum in this country. I'm hurt, and I'm concerned also there's not enough uniformed people that want to do the work, and they're looking illegally, and they're being torn away from their families, their employers are just skating by.
Right.
Concerned about that. Concerned about dreamers. I mean, these are people that were brought over when they're kids, and I mean, their status is a mess right now. So that it's like it keeps getting pushed in the back. That's getting pushed in the back burner. The criminalization. I mean, people are calling these folks illegals, when they're legally are able to come over and seek asylum, and it's I hate what we're turning into as a country. We're not trying to be welcoming and helpful, and we're just looking to use these solutions.
I do. Thanks for the question. So the question's about immigration reform. And it's a really, really important issue because immigration is the economy. It's not like immigration versus the economy. It is the economy. And here's what I'll tell you. I will piss off everybody in this room right now, but I'm going to be honest with you. Because I think you've had enough lying politics in your life, right? I would have supported building the freaking wall if we would have gotten Dreamers. And I'll tell you why. Studies show, the CBO, the Congressional Budget Office, and other groups show that if you pass the Plastic Dream Act, the contribution of Dreamers every single year would be $48 billion or $480 billion over the next 10 years, meaning that they would pay for the wall in half a year. And we spent stupider money with nothing in return, so much. So this tax plan is an example. I would have been fine with it. It's a monument to stupidity. It wouldn't solve the problem. Even the Border Patrol says that we need more than just a wall. But if I got something in return for it, I would have been like, fine. And then that whole thing that Trump has been running on, we wouldn't have it anymore. And now people would be like, okay, what are you doing for the economy? What's this tariff thing? What's this other thing? Everyone who supports Trump is holding on to the wall. If we just said, here's the wall and here's the Dreamers and knock yourself out, enjoy it, I think a lot of Republicans would say, okay, we got the wall, we got the Dreamers, we don't hate Dreamers, which is what happened with the last time we had the showdown between Dreamers and the wall. We shut down the government. The Democrat side shut down the government over the Dreamers. The Republicans shut down the government over the wall. And now people who didn't even hate Dreamers now hate Dreamers because they basically said, we're not going to get our paychecks because we want to protect people who aren't Americans. And now they hate them. It was a failure on the Democratic side and on the Republican side. I would have said, build it, give the Dreamers citizenship, they'll pay for it in half a year. It's fiscally responsible now. Mexico's not paying for it. And that one promise that Trump is holding on to win re-election would have been out of the deal now. And then we would have seen him for what he actually is, which is giving money to the wealthy, which is taxing farmers and manufacturers and not having this trade war worked out with China, maybe putting us into another recession. We have early indicators of it, and we would have solved this problem already. And the other thing that we need to do is seeking asylum is a legal right. And that's who we are as a country. People have sought asylum for time immemorial, and this leaving execution and persecution. Can you imagine what people must be fleeing to come to a country they know hates them? Can you imagine? So we need to have more judges to adjudicate this stuff quicker. We need to expand facilities so that when we do hold people, it's not for longer than 72 hours, and people could be united with their families. We could do this in a humane way. We're America. We could do this. And the way we would pay for immigration reform is through Dreamers. If you want, I can't get Mexico to pay for the wall, but I get Mexicans, or Americans now, to pay for it. That's just the truth. And we could be done with this thing. Like, it's annoying. There's so much other things we gotta deal with. And, if you give status to people who are, it doesn't deal with the people who are here, right, the wall. There's 11 million people who are here. I'd give the Dreamers, the million of them, 800,000, I'd give them citizenship. They know another country, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they serve our country. My parents got busy here and that's why I'm an American. Those people fought for our country. They deserve citizenship, they've earned it, especially if they're honorably discharged. So give them citizenship. And then the parents and everybody else, here's the thing. If you're afraid of drug dealers and criminals and people who are bringing in guns and drugs and all that stuff. You know who is oppressed by undocumented immigrants the most? Other undocumented immigrants, because they live in the same communities. If you want to be in a safer environment, let them be our eyes and ears. Give them status to work here. Most parents that I talk to who are undocumented, they're like, I came here for my kid. Give them citizenship. I probably wouldn't even vote. I want to work here with dignity and not worry about who's watching my back. And if I get raped, I want to report to the police and run in the middle of the street and yell. But I can't do that now because I'll be deported back to where there's more of that waiting for me. These are the real stories of immigration reform, not what the advocates and everyone's saying on both sides, but this is the real human story of immigrants in this country. And 1 in 10 American jobs are created by an immigrant. 1 in 5 small businesses are created by an immigrant. 40% of the Fortune 500s were made by immigrants. We're a nation of immigrants, for God's sakes. And that's what replenishes America every single generation, is an influx of people who want to work hard, contribute, and be part of the greatness of this nation. Right now, that's not who we are. It's almost comedic. It'd be funny if it wasn't so sad how hypocritical Trump's story is when it comes to immigration reform, given who his family is or who is his wife, right? It's unbelievable. So we need to be able to be honest and not be satirical about immigration reform and say, you know what, fine, do it. Do the wall, do the dreamers, get the funding in here, and treat people with dignity. Help immigrants learn English so they could, acclimate and do the work. And I guarantee you that if you do that, you bring them out of the shadows, employers won't be able to illegally employ somebody and lower the wages of everybody and force American workers to compete for lower wages. If you bring them out of the shadows, they compete for fair wages, and then you have competition based on skill, not who's going to cost you the least as an employer. So we have to hold employers as accountable as we do the immigrants. And also make sure that we understand that farmers and other folks need those seasonal workers to come in here and do the jobs that nobody here wants to do, right? And treat folks with compassion. And I guarantee you, if you have an equal level playing field where immigrants have status, if you really believe American workers are better trained, they're going to outcompete based on skill set. But don't let it be a race to the bottom when it comes to who's going to make the least and therefore I'll hire them. It's wrong for everybody. So there's an economic and moral imperative to passing immigration reform. The Senate, I'll give you an example. Everybody loved the Senate bill that was being talked about a couple years ago. It was bipartisan. We had John McCain and Marco Rubio until he turned on himself, and we had other Democrats. You know how much that bill proposed in border security? $40 billion. Democrats were on board. That's more than the wall. So I think we have to just remember what we used to be okay with and not make this polarizing and partisan. And I think if you're seeking asylum in this country, it's your constitutional right to do so. But if you're a threat to our country, we'll get you out of here. Because everyone else who wants to live a good life is fleeing that, and we don't want that to come with them. So we could be compassionate, we could be strong on our values and strong on the border, be a nation of laws and a nation of immigrants without having to compromise either one. And I think both parties, one has picked the values and one has picked the wall, and that's why I'm fed up with both. But you need both to security and compassion to fix this problem. So everyone's not voting for me? Cool. I hope you'll vote for me. Anybody here who did not support me in the beginning now support me? Anybody? They left. They're gonna go vote.
I recently came back from Scandinavia, visited the countries of Latvia and Estonia, and all the countries, Sweden and Denmark and Finland. It varied between 18 to 24 months for the wife or who would stay home with children, and they had free or reduced childcare. Childcare prices, I mean, for a single woman, not go off the road or whatever happened, basically, it's if they have multi-children. What do you plan to do to make that an issue that's more affordable?
Yeah, so the child care thing, like I said at the beginning, thank you for the question. Investing in our youth and our children, investing in single parents who are trying to raise children. That's the bedrock, I think, of making sure that we have a good economy, a good society, and everything else. It really solves economic strain, it solves the problem of gun violence for some people. It's the mother of all solutions, is investing early in our youth. And my solution on making sure that's affordable is three things. One is that tax on the above $50 million, the 2 cents per dollar. That's $2.7 trillion that go to different programs, including childcare. The second thing is, since Reagan, we've doubled the amount of tax loopholes for the wealthy. It used to be $800 billion, now it's $1.6 trillion. We need to curb some of that. Third, the fraud, waste, and abuse that we spend in the federal government. I work at the Department of Labor where there are 5,000 people working in a building, and some of them took like 3-hour lunches, and clearly not the best use of our money. So we have to make sure to modernize and add some technology to our federal government so that it catches up with the rest of society. Our government is operating with technology that's based on the 1960s. It's woefully outdated. If we streamline it and modernize it, that would be more funding that we go to use towards public programs, including childcare. And if you start investing early, the studies have shown you'll have to invest less in someone's life if you invest in them early. And so it's fiscally responsible to do that. It's morally responsible. It's our most sacred duty to take care of our children, prepare them for a life of success throughout their entire lifetime. So that's how I'd invest in it, in a way that did not burden middle-class families.
So, my question is regarding your marketing message.
Oh.
You're going against 40 years
Yeah.
of someone. You lost last time.
Like this much, yeah.
The angry age. Now, my question though, what are you going to do in the future to combat that? Because your marketing message, as I remember as that went out, was, I don't remember that much. I don't know what was out there in the public. So
Yeah.
what are you going to do differently now to make
Right.
up that 7% or 3%? Where you lost? How are you going to pick up and get your message out there so that it's going to resonate?
That's a great question.
Yeah,
That's a great question, because I could have all these great ideas and then nothing happens. Here's the number one thing I'll promise you is that me and Hunter, it turned into like this mud fight. It's just a race to the bottom. Who's the worst guy? And that bothered me, because here's the thing. We respond to negativity more than positivity because it gets our attention more. That's just how we are as humans. I feel like you have a marketing background, and if it bleeds, it leads, right? That's what happens in the news. But here's the thing, like, people need to know what I stand up for. And I believe the people in this district were good people. They voted their values. I don't think they voted against me. I think they voted their values, but not enough of them got to hear mine. So I've been going everywhere. For me, it's going to be focusing on the ground, talking to people, handing out those pieces of mail, going to the Santee Summer Concerts, having this event a year before the frickin' election. So God bless you guys for coming, because I appreciate that you're coming way early. So starting stronger. Last time we finished strong, but we want to finish stronger. The only way you do that is by starting stronger. I announced last cycle in March. I announced this cycle in January. So we're giving ourselves that extra, runway to get over that angry inch, as you call it. And I think that's going to help us. And then also me talking about what I stand for and against. I'm not for open borders. I'm not for taking everyone's guns away. I'm not for exploiting the deficit. I'm for making sure that we have an economy that works for working people, that you could live, work, and retire with dignity. I believe in putting country over party, people over politics. And if you believe in that message of change, that message of bringing people together, we don't need a hunter, we need a gatherer, somebody who will bring people together. And if we're able to do that, we'll win this election. That's what I would say. And also, I'd love to talk to you afterwards about some of your recommendations. Thank you, sir.
Good one.
I was due for an applause. Thank you. Please clap. I'm kidding.
Yes, hi.
Hi.
I'm just kind of curious. Well,
And here.
I'll repeat it.
Oh, I'm sorry. Basically, I have an issue with some of your future members of Congress that call the detention centers like Nazi concentration camps. That really annoys me because I have worked with people that survived Nazi concentration camps that have been numbers tattooed on their
Right.
arms. I have worked with people that have lost families because they were hiding from Nazis. Couldn't get the health care because they didn't know if the doctor would turn them in or if the family or if the doctor would get
in trouble, or the family that was hiding who would get in trouble.
Right.
They had people that they knew that they never saw again. They had people that were shot by Nazis just because they wanted to see what it was like to shoot a Jew. I can't understand why people can feel that way.
That's a good, I appreciate your comment. And, you know, I think what happened in the Holocaust, you can't compare it to anything. 6 million people were killed. The Jews are the most oppressed people in human history for millennia. And I think what we have in this country is a lot of hyperbole, a lot of rhetoric on both sides, and there's this comparisonitis that's happening. It's a terrible illness where everyone's comparing their pain and saying, I suffer more than you, and therefore I get to be the victim. It's a race on who could be the victim. And I don't like that. I think that we have to respect what happened in the Holocaust and not try to make what's happening today. I don't think it lends any weight to an argument. You could just look at what's happening in these locations, and it will bring so much sorrow to you, because these are just children. They're not immigrants. They're not illegal. They're not brown. They're not white. They're not Mexican. They're not American. They're children. They're just kids who want a better life, and they're the least of these, right? But to compare that to what happened in Nazi Germany against the Jews, I think it's rhetoric. I wish we would have more action and less rhetoric, less vibrato and more action. And I think it divides people. I believe you probably have a lot of compassion for those children who are being detained, but it's a huge distraction because there's these conversations being had trying to equate one thing to another. And liberals talk about how love is love. I talk about how pain is pain. Regardless of your views or your views, what you are, we don't have to weaponize or politicize pain. It's just pain. And we don't have to compare pain. We can say what happened in the Holocaust was terrible, and there's no event in human history that even comes close to it, with the sheer number of people who were murdered just because of who they were. And then also say there are people today, because of their brownness or their status, who are also being targeted. But we don't have to draw moral equivalency. We can just say it is wrong, and that's it. And we're going to treat the issue that we have in 2019 without having to harken back and compare it to other things. Just deal with it today, and not have to divide the coalition of people who are compassionate like you. And now you're busy trying to, you're frustrated at some people who are talking smack or just trying to create a false comparison, when you are fully, I think, invested in the idea that people who are children should not be trapped in cages, right? But now you're distracted because you have members of Congress who are trying to get a tweet or a headline. And that's not the way you govern. So for me, I know I'm a little bit loose-lipped, but when I get to Congress, and even throughout this conversation, when we have important conversations like this, I promise you I'll be steady, and I will be responsible when I say, and not let my words derail what I think we need to do to get this country together. But I'm also going to be a straight shooter, like the wall and the dreamers thing. When I say something like that, I mean it. I'm not joking. I'm not being flippant. But I'm not going to draw comparisons and distract people from what the actual issue is. And I hear that concern, and I understand it. I'm frustrated by the rhetoric on both sides as well. So I hear you. Appreciate it. Thank you.
Okay, my question, this is just for you.
Okay.
Ask anything at all. We'll ask you about special interest. You're looking for our party that has very high, very visible special interest. Get elected, get elected. You're going to be in a situation where special interest communities will be How are you going to resist?
I already have. I got in a lot of trouble for not supporting the gas tax last year. I got in a lot of trouble for it. I just didn't think it helped my district. And so I've already taken positions. I'm already going to get flack for the wall comment I made today. I want to be in government. I want to serve you if I could serve you. And at the end of the day, I respond, I answer to the voters in this district. If you want to vote me out, you vote me out before you voted me in. But I will always be honest. I will always say what I believe is best for the country. I will listen, I will learn, and try my best to lead not just one party, but everybody. And it is very hard to do because some of us don't even agree with, we're dreading Thanksgiving because we don't agree with our own family members. And my job is to get this collective family called the 50th to believe what I'm doing. All I can promise you is transparency. And whenever I have an issue, I'm going to come to you and tell you, this is what I'm dealing with. I'm going to get this kind of backlash from this person. I need you to be behind me if we all agree on this. Some of you will be angry with me, but I will always be honest about where I stand on things. And if you want honesty, I got it. If you want somebody who's going to tell you one thing and say something else, there's so many of those people that you can vote for. There's so many of them who are running for Congress. One of them is our congressman. But if you want someone who's going to be honest with you, painfully so, I'll be that guy. And I will put country over party. I'll put this district first, even if it costs me my seat, because I'd rather do what's best for this district than be in Congress and go against what's best for this district. I would happily lose my seat if the special interests in my party were against me because I refuse to back down on what's best for my district. I don't want to be a congressman if it means going against my district.
Hello, my name is Craig Branch from Santee, and I want to ask you about our water here in the 50th.
Yeah.
If the climate crisis gets worse, it'll stop snowing in Colorado, and we get 60% of our water from Colorado. You talked around the carbon tax a little bit. Are you willing to support something more aggressive and comprehensive like the Green New Deal?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, just so we know, and I think you know this, the Green New Deal is a non-binding resolution. It literally has no legislative appropriations teeth whatsoever. And I think you know that. Like, okay, so a non-binding resolution is, there's the Green New Deal, and then another non-binding resolution is the Congress passed every year that whoever wins the Super Bowl has to get congratulated. That's what a non-binding resolution is. It has no teeth whatsoever, has no appropriations impact, nothing. Except for the product that it comes on, maybe. That's the money that you spend on it. The question of the Green New Deal, it asks a very pointed question. What costs more? Doing everything we can to protect and save the planet in the next 12 years, or doing nothing and letting the world that we know end as we know it? What costs more? Doing everything to save this planet or doing nothing? Obviously, given those two ultimatums, doing everything, right? The thing about the Green New Deal that I don't like is that it has a bunch of things in there that has nothing to do directly with in the environment, like Medicare for all, which the argument is the environment, climate change causes healthcare concerns. Guaranteed federal job, right? Some versions have universal basic income in it. There's a lot in there. It's too top heavy and people aren't going to get behind it. And that's why it's just a non-binding resolution. It's a statement, it's an aspirational statement of values. And I support the idea that we should do whatever it takes to protect this environment. I do support that. And I do believe that we should phase out traditional means of energy like fossil fuels and coal and oil, because it's going to lead us down to a path where we have no planet left to inhabit. And climate change is causing, man-made climate change is causing and accelerating the conditions that you talked about, the droughts, the fires, and the hurricanes and floods that are hurting the whole country. So for me, I'm willing to take bold action. I'm not taking any corporate PAC money. I'm willing to completely phase out the fossil fuel industry. I'm willing to help retrain and retool the people who work in those industries right now. It's going to happen whether we want it to or not. The market's going to shift, like I said, towards renewable energy. The market's going to just do it by itself. So might as well equip people with the opportunities to adapt to new types of work. And when it comes to the droughts and the water problems, we need to be innovative. We have to be more innovative than the problems. So desalinization is one of those things. And people are concerned about the cost. You need water. You just need water. Purification, conservation. There's a whole suite of options to deal with the crisis that we're facing with climate change as it pertains to water. And we should have an all of the above strategy when it comes to desalinization, repurification, making sure that we're just changing some small things that reduces the amount of water waste, and stuff like that. So that's what I'd be willing to do, and I'm willing to do whatever it takes to protect our environment. But the Green New Deal in its current form, the reason it's just a non-binding resolution is it's just too many things, and some of it doesn't have to do directly with the environment. So for me, I agree with the idea that we should preserve this planet by investing in renewable energy, changing a lot of things, making sure that federal buildings are powered by solar, so on and so forth. But I think by the time the Green New Deal goes into actual legislation, it will look very different. And I'd like to see and be part of that to make sure that we're not hurting the very people we're trying to help, middle class families, the working poor, certain ethnic groups, farmers, and the like. So I want to make sure it's just done in a way that's economically responsible. Yeah, no problem.
Hi, Ammar.
Hi.
My name's Rebecca.
Hi.
And just so you know, I only came here to say hi and
Hi.
meet you in person. I have a little bit of comment and then a question. So when you were saying about, oh, my name is so long, just think of this. When I was born, my name was Rebecca Gonzalez Pérez Montalbán y del Sol. Okay? So I got to be
You do.
there. And even though I've known your family for 25 more years.
What side of my family?
Las Campas. Of course.
That's right.
Los Campas. That's the only family I know because these guys are, well, all of them are wonderful. Such a huge family, loving, everything that you can imagine. I think you've grown up in such a beautiful family.
Thank you.
And that's just cool. So I wanted to say, I know all your tias.
Mhm.
Maggie's like my favorite.
Yeah.
But anyway, the fact that you clarified that you're not an immigrant is very good because even though, like I say, I've known your family all these years, just coming in here, I thought immediately, you look like an immigrant, right? But who's the immigrant here?
Right.
Is it you or is it me?
Right.
Now, do I blend in? Of course. And you're not an immigrant, and I am. And it's just the way people look at you that makes you think. I blend in just because of the fact that I speak perfect English, all that. I grew up mostly in the United States. I left Cuba in 1963. So, I'm the immigrant. We're seeking asylum, of course, from communism.
Right.
This country took us in. We love it. Everything's great. But when I see these little kids, like you said, in those cages, that's what kills me to see that. Because I got here, even though I was a little kid, didn't know the language, didn't know people, my family, no one spoke English. And immigration at that time sent us out to New Jersey. That's where you get the little accent over here. And coffee and dog and all that.
The bar.
But, that is heartbreaking to me to see that those children, and they're going to be traumatized for life.
Right.
Probably. So, although I was Republican most of my life.
My whole Maggie used to this day.
I did. And why was I Republican? Because all Cubans in Miami are
Right.
Republican.
Right.
That's where I come from. So I switched over as soon as Obama was on that ticket because I saw somebody who actually cared and had humanity in him. And that's what I see in you.
Thank you.
I see you have humanity. I mean, just your name, Ammar, means in Spanish to love. I mean, just that alone. And the family that I know that you come from is just like, how would anyone not vote for you? Because
I did not put her up to this. I'm telling you right now. Gracias, señora. Thank you.
I mean, you are to the people. And I lived here in Descanso 16 years, and I've actually started to see a change from people thinking that all of us immigrants are bad. Because once I talk to them and I say, hey, I'm an immigrant, soy cubana, vengo de Cuba, estoy aquí para estar libre and to have a good life, okay? Then they see it differently.
Right.
But I even overheard someone saying here at my table, that what you need to do is shave all that beard off and be.
I'd look 12. People would be like, you're not
Right?
like the boy.
But why? Because they think that you're an immigrant. They
Right.
think that you're, and the lady was saying, well, is it because of his religion? Thinking the Muslim. You know, no. We shouldn't be looking at a person and making our assumptions of just the way you look. Because you can look at me and think I'm all kinds of different nationalities,
Right.
but I'm not. I'm Cuban and I speak perfect Spanish. I've kept my culture all these years, and my kids all speak Spanish. Everyone is like that. So, basically, my question is, I see you, Ammar, at 30 years old, which I believe you're younger than my son. I see you in 20 years being our president.
Don't you put that curse on me. Don't you dare.
You know that us Cubans somos anteras también.
That's true.
Okay?
You take that hex off of me right now.
No, I can see you as that, and of course, a long time from now, I'm thinking 20 years, but it could be sooner. I mean, in 20 years, yo voy a estar en la casita de mi hija, sentada ahí con la, como 80 años casi, okay? So I'm saying, can I at least think, and you at least think about me?
Let me win this election first. I need these people's support. I don't even know if I have your support for the 50th yet. I hope I do. Thank you. Thank you so much. Look, we're at a moment, an inflection point in our nation's history. I know I was flippant about some comments, but I want to be very straightforward about who we are. Again, I said we're fighting for the soul of our country. I do believe we could welcome people to this country who want to work hard, contribute to the fullness of this country, and also be a nation of laws. I don't see any reason why we can't be compassionate and also a nation of laws. And it was just really heartbreaking to see those children who, on their first day of school, didn't know where their parents were, and their parents were being taken from their workplace. For all those people who say that immigrants are lazy, it's interesting that they were being taken from their workplace. It's heartbreaking. These kids who are crying out, saying, my mom, my dad's not a criminal. He's a hardworking person. All just to make a political point. It's just, there are bad people in this country. Okay, some of them are immigrants, some of them are citizens, and they don't want to help this country. We should deal with them the right way. But there are people immigrants who make America more American, who contribute to this country, who help people unclench their fists and extend an open hand, who, just soften people's hearts a little bit and remind us who we are. And that's why this race is so important for me. I know that this district, we get called like a bunch of backwards, bigoted, backwoods people. We're not. We're not. We have good, we have bad. But I know that there's 50% plus one of people in this district. If I talk to them and if I market to them the right way and share with them what I shared with you today, I'm confident we could win this race. And I think it would send a message about who we are in the 50th district. We're not people who, respond to our darkest impulses, but we can be summoned by the better angels of our nature, and we can come together. We can replace a hunter with a gatherer. We can put country over party. We can disagree without being disagreeable. We can wrap our arms around these big problems that we face and fight together, Republicans, Democrats, Independents, to take back this country, to take back this district, to put it in the hands of you. You're my bosses, not the special interests in Washington. And we can pass immigration reform and make sure we have an economy that works for working people. Reward work as we reward wealth in this country. Make sure that we protect everything we believe in this country, in this district. Understand that government can't do everything. Government isn't the solution to all of our problems. Like, for example, the wildfires that we have here. We're going to have, SDG&E is going to be doing a workshop on the 14th, right in this room, I think, for a fire safety fair. You should go to that if you care about it. Government can't do everything alone. I'll give you an example. I worked at the Department of Labor, and there was a homeless guy who lived, him and his wife, right next to my house. He was just on the street. And I thought to myself, This guy and this woman, I guarantee you, if they had the dignity of a good paying job, they get back on their feet. And if I work at the Department of Labor and I can't get them a job, what the hell am I doing there? I'm working at the Department of Labor. Our job is to give people jobs. That's what I'm doing. And so I talked to the Secretary of Labor and I was like, I'm going to write you the best story because I was in public affairs. Help me get this guy off the street, give him a good paying job. Let's get him to cut the line. I want to make a story about how apprenticeship works for everybody, even people who are homeless and down on their luck. I even personally, with my own money, bought him the paint equipment that he needed for his first job. We got him an apprenticeship painting job. And I was like, and my boss was like, you're gonna fail. He's gonna fail you. I've seen this time and time before. You can't just give him a job. It's not gonna work. And I was like, nah, you don't know what the hell you're talking about. And you're just a bureaucrat. I know what it takes to help people. Like my mom and me, we worked hard and look where I am. You can't even tell me. I worked at the White House from being a janitor. I know hard work. I know what it could do. And I just wanted to believe it. And I gave him that job. I gave him the stuff. 2 weeks later, he calls me crying, and he said, just forget about me. Just leave me for dead. I'm drinking again. I don't want your help. I couldn't even do this. I said, what happened? And he said, well, my first day at work, my friends were saying, let's go get food. And he said, I didn't have money yet. I didn't get paid yet. So he said he forgot his wallet. And then his friends said, okay, that's fine. And a couple weeks later, he said his friends agreed to drop him off from work, or drop him off home. And he was like, no, it's okay, I'll take the bus. And he was insistent. He was his friends were like, we'll drop you off. Don't worry about it, man. We've had a long day. We'll drop you off. And he got angry, and that was the day that he hit the bottle. He said the one thing that was supposed to make him feel normal made him feel so abnormal and out of place. He thought the job would get things done for him. And I was like, crap, okay, well. And my boss was like, what did you learn? I'm like, it's not enough. Government can't do it by themselves. You need wraparound services. You need mental health. You need housing. You need a good paying job. What I did with this guy, because this guy's life is still in shambles, and I didn't want that on my conscience that this guy would die on the streets after I tried to help him. I took him to church. I put him on the front of the cross. I asked my pastor, just help him. I can't do anything. They put him on a program. They were building the next church. They had him do some of the work. And then they had this program where he put up all the lights in Georgetown in DC. And his gift for Christmas was a job. And the way that they funded it was, this church was part of a nonprofit that got a federal grant from the Department of Labor that was doing this work of working with nonprofits and private-public partnerships to put people to work. And I learned my lesson, that government can't do it all by itself. And we need to all do it together as a community, as a country, and government is just one tool to help each other create this beloved community. And government can't do everything. It has its limits. So even when you vote for me, and if I get to Congress, I'm going to need you as much as you're going to need me. And we're going to have to fill the gaps that government is going to create and make this the district we want it to be. That's what I learned the hard way. And I know government can't solve all the problems. So that's why big government's not the solution for everything. It's smart, strategic government to help lift people's lives up, give them opportunity, and they'll take responsibility. That's what I believe in. That's the American way. And that's what immigrants, I think, and people who just don't have a fair shot deserve in this country. And I'm grateful that, for example, Cubans, when you come to this country because of wet foot, that's what they call it, which is a weird term, but yeah, you're automatically a citizen, right? And that's why it's different for different groups, and we're not a monolith, the Latino community, and people need to understand that. We all have different ways of coming here, we have different stories, different obstacles, but as a country, we're supposed to help each other, so.
Let's talk about wildfires.
Yes.
We haven't talked about that yet.
I'm surprised.
The community of
Maybe they all read the story we did together.
Well, maybe, but a lot of people might want to hear it. So, the community of Alpine lost dozens of houses last summer in that devastating wildfire. It started on federal lands in Cleveland National Forest. And the Cedar Fire, of course, the worst fire in California, history also started on federal for
Firefighters.
federal firefighting, they've tried to withhold even pay with CAL FIRE, I think they finally worked that out. And even though Congressman Hunter's father lost his own house in a fire, you know, crickets, we haven't heard him be a vocal advocate, Congressman Hunter, on behalf of doing more to protect this district from these devastating fires, which of course with climate change, the fire chiefs and everyone all say are only going to get worse.
Right.
Fire season out year round. So what are your ideas for trying to get the federal government to get more of those tax dollars back to California to fight, to prevent fires and then to fight them once they occur?
Great question. So even Dan Jacob, I think she said, either with you or KPBS, she said, we're never going to be able to stop the next big fire. Right? That's what she said. Kind of like a very fatalistic mentality, but it's becoming, you know, with the Santa Ana winds, like our district is susceptible to this stuff. And we need to be able to treat this like the emergency it is. And the hots are getting hotter and we're having record high heat waves and fires. So again, our federal budget, yes, this was a federal issue and we're cutting funding for CalFed, we froze it for a bit. We're cutting funding for firefighters and all those stuff. Do you know why that's happening? That's happening because we're trying to carve out space to pay for this nearly $2 trillion tax bill, $1.5 trillion. So we have to cut money somewhere because we're not making up the revenue because we're giving tax breaks to the wealthy. And a budget is a statement of values. And I do not think that the top 1% need to be richer than they are. When you're rich at a certain point, when you're that rich, I gotta believe that it doesn't change your lifestyle. You're just competing with the guy who's richer than you. And you're doing that at the expense of funding public projects and things like, you know, our firefighters and making sure that we could, you know, properly send money to the county. Because we get outspent by so much compared to LA. I don't even think San Diego County had a county fire agency until the fires that happened in 2007. So, and we decommissioned it, I think, in the 70s and then didn't recommission it until that big fire. So there are things that we can do, but we just need more funding for it, and that's what repealing this tax plan will do. And I also think properly, you know, paying our firefighters because they are really working double time is important. Not taking away their pensions, not threatening that, you know, if God forbid something happens to them, the benefits for the survivors go away. That's something that one of my challenges is proposing. It's a problem. It's a step in the wrong direction. And then SDG&E has done a lot of great work. They really have. The thing that they're going to be doing in a couple weeks is important. They made a commitment to replace all of the wooden poles with steel. That still has not happened yet. And that's a great cause of concern. They also talked about reimbursing people who lost their homes in fires or lost something. And that hasn't fully happened yet, too. They're doing a lot, and I'm sure they think they're doing the best they can. There's more that can be done. We have to ask everyone to do their fair share. The federal government has to do its fair share. Companies like SDG&E, who caused the fire in 2007, have to do their fair share for the damage that has not been given relief to. And I don't think raking or whatever is going to solve the problem. Let's be serious about this stuff. But, you know, just being good stewards of our open spaces and our land is important. As citizens, we could do stuff. And that's where SDG&E is going to give that training probably about what we can do for fire safety. But it's going to take a full court press. We're going to have to field the full team to deal with this problem and many others. It's going to take groups like SDG&E, it's going to take the federal government, it's going to take a reappropriation of our values and our funding to combat the threats of climate change from wildfires and droughts and everything else. But we have to reposition and realign what our values are. And this tax plan that was passed, it's a statement of values and it's a lot of money. That half of you raised your hand and said you didn't get a refund. Well, that same pinch you're feeling is what our firefighters are feeling. So we need to be able to reappropriate our funding in a way that is in alignment with our needs and our values and our concerns. And right now, Hunter supported the tax plan. This is why he never wants to debate me. Wouldn't that be great if me and Hunter actually debated, right? We have a conversation. He voted for the first tax plan, the first version of it, that didn't get passed. The first version did not have relief for people who lose their property and homes in fires and earthquakes, but it had relief people who lost their homes in hurricanes and floods. Last I checked, California has a lot of earthquakes and fires, and he didn't care. Darrell Issa even voted against the first version. Darrell Issa. That's the only feather in his cap, is he didn't vote for this tax plan. That's going to be the one thing he'll say against Hunter, is I didn't vote for the plan that would have hurt California. And Hunter said, why should I support, he said, why should I be against a tax plan that hurts California? He said, California's stupid. Like, come on, dude. Like, really? Your own father lost a home, his home in a fire. So it's a statement of values, and Hunter has laid his bare. And Carl DeMaio has too. So it's a statement of values and making sure that we're getting proper funding and we're holding everybody accountable, from the county to the federal government to corporations like SDG&E who had a hand in what happened and admitted it plainly, and still have us think a little bit more work to do to make amends, which is why they're having that fair in a couple weeks. So thank you.
Hi, one of the few advantages I have for being old is that I was able to go to college and graduate from college with very little debt because college was much more affordable. I wanted you to comment on what's happening with our millennials and people your age who are graduating with crippling debt.
That's a good question. So I have some debt myself. So I feel like some of you are dozing off. Let me get you guys to wake up for a little bit. You guys still with me? Yeah. All right, cool. You still want to win Congress and like college in half by giving everyone free community college? Okay, do that one thing and you still have $11 billion to pay down the debt, the college debt, and do some forgiveness. Just with that one thing. The second thing I would do is, let's be honest, there's a lot of kids who go to college have no idea what they're doing, right? They go and they're like, after 2 years they just move on and do something else. After 2 years of collecting tuition, right? So I think we have to create alternative pathways to the middle class and a good stable job. College is just one avenue. Vocational training, apprenticeship, earn while you learn programs, the industrial arts, welding, construction, manufacturing, transportation, law, cybersecurity. There's so many fields and industries that don't require a college degree that pay $70,000 a year. If you create alternative pathways for education outside of college, you're going to get a whole population of people who don't want to go to college. They have a better alternative. All of a sudden, that same pool of money is going to be spread to fewer people because now they're going to vocational training. They're not going to college. So it spreads more and it means less debt when they graduate. Those two things would lower the cost of college. The third thing I would do that I think would round it all out. What happens when you're 18 years old? You have three options. You go to school, you get a job, or join the military. So what's happening with the military, like everything else, is automation. We have drones that are getting rid of certain kinds of jobs, creating new ones in the military and civilian life. There's a whole arm in the military called DARPA, which is trying to basically, automate a lot of warfare. And what's happening is you're having fewer and fewer jobs and fewer. I remember when I was in high school, the recruiters would come all the time. They always were looking for people, and we're always going to need our servicemen and women fighting. But like every industry, there's a company in Northern California called Momentum, I think, and their slogan is, if it's repeatable, it's replaceable. And they've learned to make this machine that makes hamburgers in 27 seconds. And they're going to sell it to every single fast food chain. And what they're going to do is reduce the labor costs and buy better produce. So all of us are going to go buy McDonald's. It's going to be healthier, but it's going to be the same price, better food, no labor costs. That's the future of the workforce. It's not immigration that's causing a drain of our economy and jobs. It's automation, not immigration. So we have to deal with that. So if we're seeing a lot of, if you can't afford a job, you can't work out of college, out of high school because you don't have the skills, you get vocational training. If you can't go to college because you can't afford it, we got to give you some support there. If you can't join the military because you have fewer vacancies, we need to look at, are we spending the same amount of money that we used to spend to feed, clothe, train, give healthcare, housing to members of the military, or are we not spending the same amount because we're having a reduced number of people in the service? If that's the case, we have to look at why are we spending the same amount of money on this third rung of occupation when there's fewer people working there. And that's true about every aspect. I'm using the military as an example because of DARPA, but that's true for the Department of Labor, where there's totally people who were there that probably didn't even work there. And there's fraud, waste, and abuse in every single aspect of government. There really is. I've seen it. We should take some of that funding and put it into the two other buckets: vocational training for jobs or college. If we did those three things, the tax loophole, the step up basis, the dual outcome learning, and getting some federal funding out of the fraud, waste, and abuse of, or automation supplanting employees, and move that towards vocational training or college, you could make college debt-free in this country. So.
Hi, Ammar.
Hi.
My name is Janice, and as your future boss,
My voter.
I have a question for you, and it actually has a yes or no answer. And I want to preface it first with something I heard a pundit say the other day, which was in all the mass shootings in the United States, almost everybody is only 6 degrees of separation away from knowing somebody involved in the mass shooting. And those of you who have lived in East County a long time as I have, and by the way, I am a retired teacher who taught at an East County middle school, one of them, my entire career. I'm 0 degrees of separation away from a teacher who was raised by a bullet in a shooting at Granite Hills High School, okay? So here's my question to you, because this, oh, and by the way, over the years, I've sat through a number of lockdowns specifically because of the shooter in the area. So here's my question to you, because I heard what you said today about rapid fire weapons, and I don't claim to know anything or anything more than most of us do about them. Once you're elected, will you sit down with a group of us who promise to research the topic deeply and revisit a discussion about that and the other ways in which to combat not just what we're seeing in schools, but what we're seeing in our society? Will you sit down with a group of us and reconsider revisiting?
Absolutely. And
That's a yes or no, but I'll
yeah, and yes, and I want to make sure we have some CDC funding to actually understand the causes of gun violence in America, because we did that with cars, and we learned that we need to put, seat belts. We have to get rid of cell phones while driving. We have to, get the airbags. We saw cars that banked. We fixed the roads, and we empirically, objectively lowered the fatalities due to cars because we did research on it. We didn't put our finger in the air and just said what feels good in the political moment. And I think we have to do the same thing with guns.
Hi, I'm Robert.
How's it going,
Are we
Robert?
working? Or?
Yeah.
Okay, I want to be just a little more personal. When my daughter was 14 years old, she came home from San Marcos Junior High School with crystal meth. Okay? We're 20 miles from Mexico. No matter if the border was there or not, at all, heroin has been easily available in San Diego for a long, long time. My daughter graduated from marijuana, crystal meth, and heroin. We have a lot of families who are going through that same crisis. Okay, I'm tired of hearing big pharma who did it because your child hurt himself when he was gymnastics, and they got a pill, like 5 days later he's an addict. Addiction to heroin has been around for thousands of years, okay? Now, with my daughter, within 48 hours of finding out my daughter was a heroin addict, we went out and found a methadone clinic. Methadone clinics are private operations. They're highly regulated. Anyone have any methadone clinics about your house? Okay. They're hidden. Okay? There's a lot of stigma to it. What happens is they're not easily available. Your veterans on the street can get heroin very easily. $10. Okay? You know that. Okay? I'm trying to think is that why do we make it so difficult? I hear all the opioids and blame on Big Pharma. Why isn't the word Suboxone or methadone being talked about? because I know it works. I've seen it work, and I said, I really do pray that someone actually is realistic, because I don't want to write someone off because he's a heroin addict and he tests dirty on a test. And ultimately, he can't be trusted. If 48 hours on methadone or Suboxone, Suboxone is the methadone of Europe. It only has to take it once a week. Methadone is a daily dose. But again, it's a personal issue. It's very important to me because I don't hear anyone addressing that other than blaming on Big Pharma.
And the postscript is his daughter, who gets methadone every day, is now a nurse, a successful nurse at a mental health operation in San Diego. That's the postscript of the methadone.
What she said is, my daughter back then, we got her on methadone. There's been a lot of stigma to that. She went through, became a nurse. She now works for a psychiatric hospital here in San Diego, dealing with addicts and homeless, but she's still taking methadone daily, which I have to say, there's a lot of stigma there. But if I was a diabetic, which I am, you know, I had to take insulin to keep my life going, that's what I would do. And I said, well, we're basically writing off a lot of people who are heroin addicts, and by the way, fentanyl is worse, okay? That's all I have to say.
Thank you, and I'm really glad to hear that your daughter is well. That was going to be the first question I asked you. And thank you for your courage to speak up, and as a father, thank you. And I can see you're getting me emotional. I can see how it's taking a toll on you, and I think, you know, it's true that Big Pharma has a role to play, but the other stigma, the other problem is you hit on the head, the mental health stigma, that we think differently about treating mental health problems as we do physical health problems. And that's why 22 veterans a day died. Countless other children, could have been your daughter, who had so much life left to live, and look at what she's doing now. Her life could have been taken away because of the stigma of mental health. And that's why I think we have to treat, and I've told people, like, I think one of the biggest problems we face is not just how many people break the law, but how many of our laws break our people. And this idea that, you know, that she's beyond help, or that there's no information, there's no education. Sometimes it's not legislation, it's just education, like people knowing where to get good, well-regulated help. And I had so many friends in high school who were tweakers or whatever, and I lost some of them. My ex-girlfriend, she was bipolar, so very susceptible to this stuff, and you know, had so many problems in life, and it was a stigma, and we criminalized this stuff instead of rehabilitating and treating people with, it's an illness. So my commitment to you is to lift up the lives of people like your daughter. I'd love to meet her and hear her success story in person. And be that neighborhood congressman who lets people know that there are countless people like your daughter just waiting to be saved. And all they need is access to the right treatment and the destigmatization of these things that are accessible. So I promise you to not just hit the pharmaceutical companies, but also to give people like your daughter a fighting chance, to put mental health on equal with physical health, and make sure people are educated on these ailments. Because I do think it's a disease, and it's, you know, your brain thinks it's killing itself when you don't give yourself that medication. It thinks it's medication, that drug, and methadone is a way to wean you off in a responsible fashion, because you could, you know, even with prescription medication, if you just stop cold turkey, you could commit suicide or hurt yourself. It's the same thing with these drugs. And so she's a living testament of that. I'd love to meet her, and I promise you I will shine a light on this, because it is an issue that we're facing in our district. Your daughter's not alone, unfortunately. So. We did it! Well, I think it's regulated, and you're the person who helps you, the clinician.
It depends on basically your addiction level. They try to put you on at a certain level. I can't tell you how much. My daughter was a very heavy heroin user. So it took a long time to get her to find a dosage that is fairly minimal. But that, if she goes below that minimum, you can tell her having a problem. Okay, yes, she's been on it for 15 years, but a very small dosage, and that keeps her able to function as a nurse in a psychiatric hospital.
And taxpayer. Thank you so much, and I love the tone that we ended on. It's real. These are real people talking about real issues, and it's not about who's tweeting what or the squad or whatever. These are real human stories. This is about our country. This is about our neighbors. This is about the work of public service. Being a politician is not just this thing where you're like a celebrity. You are beholden to people. And when you run for office, if you do it the right way, you make a decision that your life is no longer your own. You're a vessel of all the concerns and the sentiments and the needs of your district. You set aside your own feelings on things and you do what's best for your district. And that's your moral compass, is what is going to objectively help my district. And that's why I've devoted 3 years of my life to doing this, and I'm willing to devote as much life as you're willing to give me. And thank you for the incredible honor of being able to serve people by running for office. It's such a sacred honor. And I want to say I'm so thankful that you're spending your Sunday with me, probably longer than you expected. And thank you for braving it out. I promise, even if you don't vote for me, and I hope you do, that's how I get in office, but even if you don't vote for me, I want you to know that I will be voting for you. And I will try my best to make you all proud and never forget the values that I was instilled with. I know I'm young, I'm 30 years old. When I first started running, someone said, "What? You're not too young." JFK was 28 years old when he ran and became congressman. I'm like, I'm no JFK. And they're like, Joe Biden was 28 years old. I'm like, Joe Biden was never 20 years old. He's been 70 something all his life. But I've had experience, personal lived experience. I've worked in government. I've seen how the levers of Washington work, with the example of that guy who got the good job because of the nonprofit and government working together. I've seen the levers of government work. I've seen how Washington is broken. I've came back and it didn't break me. And that's one thing I can tell you that our current congressman cannot say, is that he was chewed up and spat out by Washington. He served our country honorably in military, and that man never made it back from Washington. And I'm here to tell you that I promise you to never lose sight of who I'm fighting for. There's the easy way to win races and take money from all the special interests and never do this stuff, or there's the hard way of keeping your integrity. And I promise you to always be a man of integrity, to lead with my values, and to never spend an extra day in Congress if it means selling out the people of my district, the people that I love and will fight for every single day in Washington. So thank you guys for having me, and I hope to have your support. Thank you.
I want to thank each and every one of you for coming and engaging and participating in our democracy. This is a very important process. And see you next time. Thanks, guys.
Okay, I have that.